on, everybody? How's everybody doing this fine day? We have kind of an awesome update to bring you.
Hi.
Why don't you come around? Come around here. We have a couple new permanent residents of the Jordan World household. Muffin, you fucking cut it out. Be on your best behavior right now, okay?
Violent queen.
Yeah, hi.
Hey.
So we're gonna get ourselves a super muffin emote, and we'll get her a little cape, and she's part of the family. But Aurora is moved in.
Yay.
She is here permanently. She's living here in the apartment. Oh, she's patting my bald head. Well, yeah.
Just patting your head, darling.
Get down a little bit so I can see your face. Hi.
So cute.
Mwah.
Mika.
Mika. Do the whole family. Mika. Come here.
Come here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got the whole family.
Cute. She gonna bite you.
She gonna bite you. Oh, you gave her a kiss. You gave her sister a kiss.
Don't do it,
We
baby.
got all of us here now.
She's a fierce protector. She likes
Muffin is still getting used to Mika's energy. Because Mika's got so much energy.
Oh, yeah.
And Muffin's just a little girl. But yeah, we got our whole family here now. Oh.
I was gonna do that.
My baby. And she's sitting across from me. She's on her computer.
Yeah.
She's gonna be doing some gaming.
Got me all set up.
Oh, we need to fix the bed sheet at some point.
Oh.
Yeah, you see that in the corner?
Oh no. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Guys, mess it up.
All right, let's get into some herbal space program.
Nothing.
Some space program a la Kerbal.
Excella.
Let's see. Meanwhile, I have been spending the last couple days just totally locked into eBay, trying to find the best possible deal on a Switch 2.
You're good at that.
Yep. Okay. Who's crying?
Me.
Why?
She wants love.
Mika.
Mama.
Use your words, Mika.
She tried, but she almost got bit.
Ugh. Muffin.
She's a mess. few days.
Get it together, Muffin.
She will always be a mess.
Hi, Mika. Oh. All right, let's watch some stuff. Oh, no way. I think... Is he meeting up with that little tiny woman that we watched the other day? Yes. Oh my God, they're doing an eating challenge together.
All right,
Yay!
today at a place called the Pump House Cafe in Wellingborough, and we're doing this, the most delicious Big Dipper Challenge. 150 chicken nuggets. That's the order of business.
Chicken
Cool thing about
nuggets.
this is either you can do it solo with a 30-minute time limit, or with a partner with a 15-minute time limit. Fortunately for me, I've got a very special guest inside who is going to help me out. There's a wasp there. I don't like wasps. There's a big crusty piece of on the front of your lens, you twonk. Look at it. Look. Can you see it? Yeah.
All right.
I actually remember this place very well because they have a English breakfast challenge here as well, which I did many years ago. There's a special guest. Look, she's hard at work.
Y'all are gonna have to learn.
So I'm here with Katina Eats
Not
Kilos.
to unplug my
First time we've
laptop
ever
every
shot
2
together,
fucking seconds.
and I'm hoping she's gonna dig me out a can of a hole. So I'm hoping to do like 30
Okay.
chicken nuggets. She picks up 120 maybe. But how's your trip been in England so far?
Oh, it's been great. I've eaten way too much food, drank way too many good beers, I think. A few too
Oh
many
my
pints.
goodness.
Yeah, you and Mandy both. Yeah. Where's the big man?
I don't know. My guess is some sort of toilet situation.
That'll be Randy Santello, right?
Loitering.
Should we go say hi?
Let's say hi.
Randy's here. Oh, Randy's here.
I'm here with Adam, Beard Meets Food. Excited to watch them dominate some chicken nuggets.
We strategized.
You got to train, strategize, dominate.
I don't know about the dominate part.
If I'm in this, I need to be flexing my pecs.
Only Randy Santel would make an XXXL t-shirt look like it's from Baby Gap. This fellow over here was here apparently when I did the breakfast challenge, which implies that he's somewhat of a regular. You know, normally I'm not much of a fan of trite philosophical calligraphy on the walls, but that's quite a good wholesome little message. Good coffee is a pleasure, good friends are a treasure. Or in Randy's case, actually quite the burden because I bought all the food and drinks last night. Not a single round. Not one. How you feeling, Continue? Ready?
I am so ready.
Hi. Hi, could we get one Big Dipper challenge for 2, please?
Of course you can.
Does that mean we get 15 minutes?
15 minutes, yeah.
All right.
75 each.
Well, if we don't do it precisely 75 each, the comments are going to be rife with people saying that somebody didn't carry their weight.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll follow my sword at the end and do 74. I don't actually know how difficult it's going to be because it's 150 chicken nuggets, but they look to me more like what we would call a goujon. You would call
Chicken finger, chicken tender.
chicken tender. So I think they're probably going to be bigger than, say, a McDonald's chicken nugget. And nobody's done this one.
No, not that we've found out. A lot of people have tried, they said.
Yeah?
Yeah.
This ain't one of your videos around here.
Chicken dippers.
All right.
That's actually kind of intimidating.
I usually don't have spicy sauce.
That says,
Special sauce.
that says spicy on it. All right. I'm here with Darren from the Pump House in Wellingborough, and we're about to do the delicious Big Dipper Challenge. 150 chicken nuggets. You can either do this as one person with a 30-minute time limit, 2 people, 15-minute time limit, and if you finish it inside the time limit, it's free.
Yep, great.
Yeah?
Yep. No one's ever done it.
No one's ever done it.
Probably people come close.
No pressure.
I think we got it though. These look like some decent nuggets.
Oh, that's filling me with a lot of confidence. Katina means
yeah.
business. The hair's been
The
tied
hair
up.
is tying back. They're gonna have some like ASMR quality to them, so I might be going.
They're crispy.
So I mean, I think dip is gonna come in handy. Which one are you like eyeballing the most? I kind of think this one looks nice.
You know what? We can double dip, I think. We can share dips. I like that. Looks like it's a sweet chili.
Sweet chili looks
So
nice.
I think I'm going to go for that. But the creamy stuff early on, I'm definitely going to be avoiding the spicy stuff.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
Let's get it! animal. You're not even using water.
I can't believe she can eat all that without using any liquids.
Doesn't need it. Got sauce.
These are good nuggets.
They're really good.
I think the sweet chili sauce is my favorite so far.
It still looks like they haven't eaten any. They're not going away.
Aren't you supposed to be supportive? This is literally your fiance.
Oh no, she's been looking forward to this for a long time. You know, she started watching your videos long before me.
You're gonna start rumors.
Right, what's this stuff, Tina?
Thousand Island, I bet.
Yeah? Let me try some of this.
Like a burger or fry sauce. It's quite good. I'm gonna try spicy mayo.
You tried the spicy one?
It's not that bad. I wouldn't recommend doing it a bunch. It does have a kick, but no more than a jalapeno pepper.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I'm much more of a wuss than you when it comes to spice, Katina, believe me.
Well, I'm quite wussy. Okay, okay.
Is Katina faster or is Adam? Oh, Adam is?
Oh, he's way faster.
No. I nearly got stung by a bee there.
It's aggressive.
I got stung by a bee. Not clickbait.
Your face after these challenges, you look like you've been stung by a bee.
What is this?
Lately, yeah.
What goes in here?
You are hella fast.
Oh,
Honestly, I was just really worried that we wouldn't do it. And I thought if there were two of us here who do this for a living and we lost, we would never live that. We'd have to close our channels down.
Yeah.
That'd be it for us.
We are retiring.
The wasp is back. The bee is back.
At least it didn't sting my face.
Come on, Randy.
Smooch. Oh, is it?
I don't want to be the guy that does the chivalry thing.
We have a bee handicap.
Randy just lost a fight to a bee. Let it be known.
I'm a damsel in distress and you didn't even save me.
See if I can do this like a real pro. No liquids.
It's a little more fun this way.
That takes effort.
That's why I look like a Dragon Ball Z character while I'm eating. My forehead vein comes out.
I can see the vein now.
I think it's going to be a close one. We'll have to see. They're not touching the barbecue sauce.
I should say, Randy's powers of perception are probably not what they would normally be since he drank at least 16 beers last night, so I wouldn't trust him too much.
Hey, if Adam's buying, Randy's drinking.
Right? You don't even tell me.
Turning into a lightweight nowadays.
I know, it's not as easy as it looks. I got a different tactical drink this week. Pineapple and grapefruit. You guys don't have Fanta in America, right?
We have the Fanta orange, that's it. No.
Yeah, Fanta.
Yeah, and then we had the dancing girls that did the
Fanta.
Fanta, don't you wanna Fanta? You didn't have that ad.
We didn't have that, I don't think.
Like, you could just cut to the scene of the ad. And everyone's like 70s disco dancing.
yeah.
It's fantastic.
We're
classic.
over halfway now. Are we halfway through the nuggets though? We've gotta be.
Think you can do it?
No. Not in 15 minutes.
You should know. Actually, we probably do need to speed up. Is that 9 minutes?
9 minutes, copy it.
First sip of liquid feels delightful.
She looks like she's getting full.
No!
Adam was all about health last night. He was drinking Peronis.
There's nothing wrong with the Peroni, man.
All right, 4 minutes left, guys.
Can we do it?
4 minutes left.
You turn that into a Randy Santel video there, yeah. Randy Santel Productions. Oh man, we're 12 minutes.
Wow. I never dipped in ketchup, so I finally, the last nugget gets ketchup.
All right, this is Big Mix Food and the legendary Katina Eats Kilos, and that was Pump House Cafe's Big Dipper Challenge, beaten for the first time.
Love it.
Hey.
Solid work, Jeanette.
Hey, nice work, mate.
Thank you, thank you. People clapping when you finish dinner is always an interesting experience.
That was close and I wanted it to be. That was like 13 minutes nearly. Am I swollen up again? My face feels swollen.
Yeah, it wasn't a low sodium challenge.
Yeah, yeah. Do you guys have like a dessert menu here? Anything?
Cakes and brownie and
Stole my line there, Katina.
Tell me more.
Victoria sponge cake or chocolate brownie?
Ooh. I think I'm leaning towards carrot cake. That sounds special.
I'll go with the, which is better, the vanilla sponge or the brownie? Brownie? I'll go with the brownie. Thank you very much, man. Thank you.
I'll do a big brownie.
Thank you very much.
Victoria sponge.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
Beautiful, thank you. That looks delightful. Clink, look at your bite though.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This is actually good. This is a moist vanilla sponge.
Just a 2-3.
Why do people hate that word?
Back right.
I never understood it.
Oh, man.
Sensei.
Which one of you people said that we would not do it? Somebody I definitely had it come from here somewhere.
It come from there somewhere, didn't it? It did. We knew you had it.
You guys next. You gotta shoot me that hard to break, what, 13 minutes? You almost lost. It was an honor to have Katina on the channel. I'm sure you watch her already if you watch my videos. If you don't, I'll put one of her videos up on the end card. Go give it a little tinkle, give it a little watch. And if you want to see us do another video together.
Yay. That was fun. Okay. Next one.
Than it is today.
You accounted for 21.5% pricing.
This president took the inflation rate up.
Inflation.
This president took the inflation rate up. It's more than 3% year on year. You saw the numbers just come out. It's more than 3% year on year.
Okay.
Isn't it? Am I core mistaken?
It is.
Sorry?
The math is direct.
Yeah.
The math is the math.
Why did the president fail to keep his promise to lower prices, in your opinion?
I'm laughing because this piece of it is basic. The president did say that he wanted to be in office to bring inflation down, and he has not brought inflation down. That's all.
He drove it up. He not only failed, he drove it up.
Now Democrats found religion on inflation. After presiding over the worst inflation in 40 years, now you found religion.
It's 2026. They're in charge. You guys are in charge.
I'm aware of that.
What are you going to do differently?
Well, pop the popcorn and pop the champagne, because Democratic debate powerhouse and former Biden Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg is going viral for brutally humiliating both Donald Trump and MAGA CNBC host Joe Kernan on live TV in an explosive debate about Trump's disastrous economy and his disastrous Iran war. The sparks are flying, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, we have several clips to dive into here, and they're going to be in chronological order. Starts out relatively calm, and by the end, they're practically throwing haymakers at one another. So Donald Trump just received a disastrous economic report indicating that inflation, Trumpflation, is skyrocketing on his watch. We'll talk about the particulars of that report and Fox News' reaction in a separate video. But I want to have some fun here and focus on this viral debate between Buttigieg and Joe Kernan, Donald Trump's favorite CNBC anchor. But again, we're going to play these clips in chronological order. But by the end, it gets really, really heated.
What are your thoughts on where we stand right now?
Yeah, as feared, inflation is up. And the big thing that's different right now, I think, is that in many periods in American history, including recent history, you've had inflation, and then the administration does things to try to reduce it. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they fail. But the administration is trying to push prices down, normally. Right now, we have the administration actively making prices higher. They're actively making goods prices higher with the tariffs, obviously. Typical family paid about $1,000 more for that. They're actively making energy prices higher by killing energy transmission projects as well as generation projects. And they're, of course, actively making energy prices higher with a war that nobody wanted, nobody asked for, and that, of course, is the direct reason why inflation is higher now than it was before. To see inflation tripling from last month, not because the administration tried and failed to lower prices, you could put it that way, but really because they actively increased them.
Okay, so there's a reason that Buttigieg is one of the best debaters in the Democratic Party and, quite frankly, in all of modern politics. He's very, very good at this. He knows, especially as a member of the Biden administration, which at its peak saw 9% inflation, that one of these co-hosts on this conservative, fiscally conservative, largely pro-Republican network is going to come back and say, well, Pete, what about Joe Biden if you want to talk about inflation? So that's why he pre-butts it in advance. He's like, look, most responsible administrations, Republican or Democrat, actively try to fight inflation. They actively try to reduce inflation. And if you want to blame them for failing, so be it. But the difference here is that Trump not only promised to end inflation on day one, He's actively pursuing policies which are single-handedly responsible for inflation, his disastrous tariffs and the disastrous Iran war. So to whatever extent you want to blame Biden for inflation under the Biden administration, you have to blame Trump even more for inflation under the Trump administration because he's actively pulling that lever, increasing inflation. He's pre-butting it in advance. Very sharp. Here's the next clip.
I see your point with tariffs. That's certainly valid when you look at some of these issues. But with the war, the administration obviously thinks it was going after security issue with Iran, with a player that potentially was close, very close to having a nuclear weapon.
But that right there is a huge fail for the White House because they assured us that the nuclear program was obliterated a year ago. Moreover, we've seen that it's possible, or at least it used to be possible, before U.S. credibility was demolished by this White House, to stop Iran from having a nuclear weapon through diplomacy. I believe the president started this war because he wanted to. And now we're in a situation where you've got a war that we didn't need to have. Iran has enormous leverage now. Certainly their military is integrated. But let's be very clear about why the president backed down. Why did the president back down from his demands?
Let's start with
why is the president taking a weaker position than he started with?
Okay, so again, a couple of points here worth noting. Number one, he's touting the success of the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal. And by all accounts, even though it was imperfect, even though it was not a panacea, it was certainly more effective at reducing or blunting Iran's nuclear ambitions and their nuclear enrichment than what we have today. Trump single-handedly shredded that deal, meaning he is responsible for everything that followed. The chaos, the uncertainty, and to the extent that Iran was ever pursuing a nuclear program in the absence of the JCPOA, that's Donald Trump and the Republican Party's fault exclusively, number one. Number two, I love the fact that he continues to emphasize, well, if you're buying into the premise that we had to pursue this war in 2026 in order to stop Iran's nuclear program, Donald Trump promised us in 2025 during the so-called 12-day war when he struck Iran's nuclear sites like Fordo that he obliterated their nuclear potential, meaning he lied. He failed and he lied, and we have to deal with that. That's incredibly important. He said he launched this war last year to try to eliminate their nuclear program. He said he did so despite all the evidence suggesting that we merely set it back. He said, no, it's totally obliterated, totally destroyed. And meaning, if it wasn't obliterated and destroyed, that's a massive thing that Trump should pay political consequences for, given that he started the second war on false pretenses, and it got 13 American service members killed, 160 Iranian school children killed, thousands of other civilians, and inflation is skyrocketing because of that. Donald Trump should own the political consequences, and I am perfectly justified to hit him with that. Well, as you're about to see here, Joe Kernan is really pissed off at that.
And then he started with.
Let's start with just the prospect of the war to begin with.
Yeah.
Look, the argument that he started this because he wanted to, there are plenty of people who think there was a very real threat of nuclear. It was presented through intelligence. Israel had an opportunity to really take and strike at this point. And as for diplomacy, that was sunsetting anyway. Anything.
Well, it wasn't sunsetting. It was detonated by the first Trump administration.
It was not capped. It was going to sunset if it hadn't already.
They were lying about everything.
And, right, the idea of they had much longer range missiles than they ever admitted
compliance
to.
problems.
We've seen all
for
of that
sure.
play out.
But the point is, they had been stopped from getting anywhere near a nuclear weapon. And last year, the president assured us that he ended their nuclear ambitions. If he wants to come clean with the American people that he failed to do that, then he has to say that before he launches a war.
Democrats at that time said, no, you haven't. And then...
That's Joe Kernan. And again, he is a pro-Trump MAGA apologist on this show, Squawk Box on CNBC. And I want you to see how agitated he gets very quickly.
Before he launches a war.
Democrats at that time said, no, you haven't. And then you haven't.
Clearly he hadn't.
Yeah.
Clearly that he hadn't, so then we needed to go back and take care of it, unless you really think it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
But why is it okay for Donald Trump to lie to us? And Joe, does that mean you want to admit that we Democrats were right and are always right when it comes to Donald Trump, and we should get all the credit and Donald Trump should get all the blame for lying or being wrong about Iran's nuclear ambitions? See how he tries to bake that in there? Well, you Democrats were right about it. You said that Trump was lying about it, so we had to go back. Well, you're skipping over the fact that your guy, Joe, lied or was wrong, and we were telling the truth or were right, so we're superior. Deal with it.
Again, they don't have a nuclear weapon. They weren't about to get a nuclear weapon.
How do you
now,
why do you keep saying they weren't about to get one? Steve Witkoff said they had enough fissible material for 11 bombs.
So are you acknowledging the president lied when he said that
I don't
their
know.
program was
No
obliterated?
one knew what happened at Fordo.
Either he didn't know or he was lying.
Okay.
Which is it?
Is that really the point? Whether
No,
or
the
not,
presidents of Miami, Michigan are paying
whether
more
or
for
not
gas.
he was knew it was obliterated or not is not the point. If it was.
It is the point because it's the predicate for the entire war, and it's the predicate for all the domestic economic harm we're feeling now. I'm sorry, Joe, it does matter. And by the way, if this were a Democrat, if a Democrat lied about a major foreign policy initiative, a war, and then on the tails of that lie, launched a second war, and it caused domestic problems with the economy or the stock market, Joe Kernan would be apoplectic.
Yep.
He'd be like, why did Joe Biden lie to us? We're seeing inflation rise because of him. If he'd have told us the truth. But because it's Trump, Joe Kernan feels this reflexive need. Oh, it doesn't matter that he lied. It doesn't matter that he lied last year or he's lying now or he's lying both years. And as a consequence, inflation is skyrocketing. We're in it now, and you can't second guess it.
Wasn't obliterated, then you have to do something. You can't go back and say, well, you lied about this,
Joe,
so that we can't actually do what we need to do.
Joe, America is weaker because the president launched this war.
That's your opinion. That's not.
No, but it's clear, and I'll tell you why. Because
we had
when
the
Trump,
Secretary of NATO say the world is a safer place. He just said that yesterday.
His job is to butter up the president. But why do you think the president chickened out on his demand? Why do you think the president backed off of his demand? The president said,
backed off of which demand?
Unconditional surrender. Right now, instead of unconditional surrender, which was the president's demand just 1 month.
This is not over yet, number one.
Is this unconditional surrender?
I don't know what it's going to end up being.
I'll tell you what we've got.
If the Strait reopens again and they have no Navy.
So the best
no
case
missiles,
scenario is the Strait being open. The Strait was open before he started this.
Yeah,
and
but they were
meanwhile,
close to having a nuclear weapon, 11 nuclear weapons.
We had other ways of dealing
like
with
what? Obama's way?
That worked.
That did not work.
Did they get a nuclear weapon under Obama? Did they get a nuclear weapon?
They were close enough within months.
No. And the president, again, assured us the whole point of bombing them last year was to, quote unquote, obliterate the nuclear program.
This is the problem. You see, Joe is stuttering and stammering here because he's losing. He's absolutely losing the debate. He knows he can't defend Trump on this. Trump lied, which put American national security in danger. We totally obliterated them. No, you didn't. You failed. We were right. You were wrong. And you lied to us. You didn't just get it wrong, which would be bad enough. You actively, maliciously lied. That's a problem. And as a consequence, you said we had to, okay, go back and correct it because I lied to you when I said that we got the job done the first time. So we have to go back and get the job done the second time. 13 service members are dead. 160 Iranian schoolgirls are dead. Thousands of other civilians are dead. Gas prices are skyrocketing. Inflation is skyrocketing. The people are feeling the pinch at home. That's Donald Trump's fault. And it is 100% defensible to point that out. Joe Kernan doesn't want to hear it because Donald Trump has a little R next to his name, and that's all he cares about. But the debate gets even more intense.
I understand that.
And look, I'm saying this as somebody who knows what it's like to be sent to war by a U.S. president.
Okay.
And when a president sends you to war, when you and your buddies are on that gray tail plane going into a war zone, you do it with some level of confidence, some level of assurance that your chain of command, all the way up to the President of the United States, would not do this if they didn't have a choice.
Now that we're there, do you hope this has a successful outcome? There were 40,000 Iranians that were slaughtered by the same regime. 47 years of killing Americans.
We all hope that. That doesn't mean that we're just going to pretend that it did.
Regime being left intact by this president.
I don't know if that's going to be the case, and I don't know what might happen.
Is that an argument?
So you don't want this to work?
It's so funny. This is what they do. This is what conservatives do, both in and out of office. If you criticize Trump or you criticize his crisis management, you want him to fail or you want the crisis to continue. Again, does that logic ever work the other way? Because if so, then I expect Joe Kernan and other Republicans in and out of office to shut the fuck up the next time a Democrat's in office. If there's a crisis when a Democrat's in charge, I expect you to stand up, salute, and say, you know what? God Emperor Biden, God Emperor Obama, God Emperor Democrat, whatever you want, sir, whatever you want, madam, God Emperor
Why
Empress
they call it
AOC.
straight when it's curved?
Because to criticize you or to question
What's up,
or to
Sleepy?
do anything like that, then obviously you
doing,
don't want
good
this to
buddy?
be successful. You want the crisis to continue. This is what they do every time. It was pioneered, if not invented. It was pioneered in particular during the Bush administration, during the war on terror. Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck, they were masters of this. Oh, you're criticizing President Bush during a war? You must want the terrorists to win. No, Joe, that's not how it works. And by the way, if it did, you would be the same way under a Democratic president, and you're not. When Joe Biden was withdrawing from Afghanistan, Joe Kernan and so many others were second-guessing and criticizing and mocking and condemning. I guess that means you wanted the Afghanistan war to continue and you wanted the terrorists to win. Is that what you wanted, Joe?
And it was just a bad move. You want us to pull out now?
Well, look, there's no obvious way out now, but I want to make sure that this ends in a way that, first of all, our economy can recover, that we're not paying so much for gas. I mean, right now, oil's $100, jet fuel's $200, gas is over $4, diesel's like $5.50.
You averaged $3.80 under Biden for 4 years.
Yeah, and when we left, inflation was lower than it is today.
You accounted for 21.5% price increase.
This president took the inflation rate up.
Inflation.
This president took the inflation rate up.
It's 2.7%.
It's more than 3% year on year. You saw the numbers just come out. It's more than 3% year on year.
Okay.
Isn't it? Am I mistaken?
It is.
Sorry?
The math is direct.
Yeah.
The math is the math.
Look, it
fluctuates each month from 2.7 to 3%.
It's higher than when he got here,
It's
Joe.
not 9%.
His central campaign promise was he was going to take inflation and drive it down, and instead he took inflation and it's up.
I thought the Fed.
It was 3 when he got here, and now it's more. It could not be simpler than that.
It's around 3, and we're involved in a war.
He said on day 1 it would go down. He came in on day 1, and now it's up.
It's up to 3%. It was 21.5% price
promised
increases
it would go down
over 4 years. Over 4 years, it was 21.5%.
He promised it would go down.
Democrats own the affordability crisis.
Listen to me.
If we owned the affordability crisis, you guys wouldn't be struggling in elections. You're getting your asses kicked. You all own the affordability crisis because you all set a ridiculous, stupid standard and you let Trump do it. Trump said he would come in on day 1 and cut costs, not just reduce the rate of inflation, but that he would cut costs on day 1. That was an impossible standard, but he did it anyway to solicit votes, and you were right along with him. And as a consequence, you're being hoisted by your own petard. Are we exploiting this for political benefit? Yes. And we have every right to do so. And if the shoe was on the other foot, you'd be doing the same damn thing. Trump is losing the affordability war no matter what you say, and you're never going to recover on this.
I wish
Deal with it. And it's your fault.
president.
Period.
Why did the president fail to keep
You don't think Democrats own the affordability?
Do you know, he's laughing. He's talking about Andrew Ross Sorkin, his co-host here. Check that out. The guy on the other side of Pete Buttigieg.
4 years, it was 21.5%.
He promised it would go down.
Democrats own the affordability crisis.
Listen to me.
Period.
So he's laughing, and that pisses Joe Kernan off.
Why did the president fail to keep his
You don't think Democrats own the affordability crisis?
Why did the president fail to keep his promise to lower prices, in your opinion?
I'm laughing because this piece of it is basic. The president did say that he wanted to be in office to bring inflation down, and he has not brought inflation down. That's all.
He drove it up. He not only failed, he drove it up.
Mr. Secretary, let's talk a little bit.
Love it. Love it. Joe Kernan is madder than hell because he's lost. I'm sorry. This is your fault. You allowed him to solicit unreasonable standards for votes, and now you're being hoisted by your own petard. And by the way,
said it again.
This isn't a crisis he inherited. It's not a war that he inherited. He did this himself between tariffs and the Iran war.
Have had a minimal effect.
You tell a family where I live that $1,000 per household is minimal.
From the 21.5% increase that the Democrats.
No, we can argue all day about just how bad COVID was and how bad it got and what it took to come back from that. But you call it $1,000. Where I live, $1,000 per household isn't minimal.
Now Democrats found religion on inflation.
Oh my God, that's not an argument, dingbat.
It's 2026.
Great.
They're in charge.
Let's say you're right. So what? You're in charge.
Look, what are you going to do differently to make the prices actually go down like you promised a year ago?
Number one, we
love it. Look, even if I granted you everything about Biden, which I don't because Biden inherited COVID from Trump and Trump mismanaged COVID, number one. Number two, then Joe will say, well, what about Biden's spending? Donald Trump has been more fiscally profligate and spent more than Joe Biden has. Donald Trump is responsible for more than 1/4 of the entire national debt from the beginning of this country until now. All the debt we'd accumulated. Donald Trump has contributed more than Biden. You lose. I'm sorry.
Got to get through this war, and you've heard people.
We got to get through this war. We didn't have to be fighting this war. What are we doing?
That's a matter of opinion. You can't say that.
It's a matter of opinion that I share with most Americans and a large number of Republicans and a whole bunch of MAGA people who bought into this president because they actually believed in what he said he would get us into a war.
Republican approval for the war.
You don't start with the approval you have within your own party, but the point is the MAGA coalition.
Democrats aren't going to approve of anything.
I'm talking about Americans. Americans disapprove of the president and their right to do so.
Love it. So Joe Kernan got dog walked here. He's visibly frustrated. I'm sorry, dude. This is what happens when you defend Trump. Trump puts you, no matter how smart you are, in a position where you just lose the debate by definition because he's such a failure and he's so stupid. Being the smartest Trump supporter is like being the world's smartest flat earther. The world is round. It doesn't matter how smart you are. I have no doubt you're smart, but you are defending an indefensible proposition. And again, this is going viral. People are commenting on how Joe Kernan has gotten humiliated. It's so embarrassing. This was embarrassing all around, ridiculous. Joe Kernan kept saying that Pete Buttigieg would have let Iran have a nuclear weapon. You know, the inflation comparison all the way. This does not go well for Trump minion Joe Kernan. Again, going viral for all the right reasons. I love to see it. I love to see Trump apologize, like Joe Kernan get humiliated. And by the way, Trump's ultimately humiliated as a consequence because
ADHD Queen Aurora.
Mika, literally twice in less than a minute. You're gonna need to chill, okay? Come here. Good girl. How's it going, buddy? Did he just leave? Oh my god. He just came in and dipped.
So rude.
Alright, let's see. What else we got going on? I really want to watch the movie First Man with you, baby.
What is it called?
First Man.
Oh. Searching it now. Ooh, we must.
Ryan Gosling plays Neil Armstrong.
Ooh, another.
And it's the first
spacey
moon
thing.
landing. Yeah. It's really good.
Tonight.
I mentioned in our previous video discussing Candace Owens and Alex Jones' response to Donald Trump's meltdown against them and Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, that Tucker Carlson also responded to Trump. But the question is, did he insult him or did he capitulate? Did he roll over? Well, you have to squint here, but the evidence suggests that he is continuing his rebellion against Donald Trump, not just in terms of what he said, but what he is now doing with his website in terms of anti-Trump merchandise. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, we have a lot to talk about here. I said I wanted to basically segment the Tucker Carlson aspect of this MAGA civil war in its own separate video because I want to talk about Tucker's response, what he's doing on his website, Laura Loomer, who is one of Trump's top acolytes and the de facto HR director of the Trump White House, her beef with Tucker Carlson and the role she claims she played in pushing Trump to finally burn the bridge with Tucker Carlson, as well as what the polls suggest about the divide between Trump and Tucker. But let's start with this. According to Mediaite, Tucker Carlson responds to Trump calling him, quote, low IQ, and suggesting he see, quote, a good psychiatrist. Fired Fox News host turned internet provocateur, Tucker Carlson responded to Donald Trump's scathing attack this week in his Friday, quote, morning note, suggesting that Trump deserves some, quote, grace because he may be blackmailed by Israel. Trump turned to Carlson in a Truth Social post on Thursday night following weeks of criticism from Carlson over the war in Iran. Quote, I know why Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones have all been fighting me for years, especially by the fact that they think it's wonderful for Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terror, to have a nuclear weapon, because they have one thing in common, low IQs. Quote, they're stupid people. They know it. Their families know it. And everyone else knows it. Look at their past. Look at their record. Now, response to this, Carlson's note in response to Trump was titled, quote, "Is Israel blackmailing President Trump?" And it was written in Carlson's typical conspiratorial tone of just asking questions. Carlson has become best known in recent years for his promotion of conspiracy theories, ranging from 9/11 trutherism to suggesting the federal government was behind the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. His rhetoric has become more and more bombastic, and he's even gone so far as to claim he was physically attacked by a demon while in bed. Quote, establishment media never reports this, but the Israeli government has a storied history of blackmailing U.S. presidents. Perhaps the most jarring example occurred in the 1990s when Israel used recordings of a Bill Clinton-Monica Lewinsky phone sex session as leverage to pressure Clinton into releasing convicted spy Jonathan Pollard from prison. We're not joking. That really happened. The phone sex story is worth remembering as President Trump attempts to end the Iran war. Like many other things Israel has done, it shows America's special ally is willing to play very dirty to achieve its goals. Dark money campaign contributions, extortion, physical threats, and even assassination. In their anti-Christian worldview, the ends always justify the means. They have no issue destroying lives. Israel's current top priority is making sure Operation Epic Fury does not stop. Let's see. He continued before suggesting Israel could be involved in a, quote, Clinton-style blackmail against Trump or something far more morbid. Notably, President Clinton has long spoken publicly about his peace negotiation efforts between Israel, the Palestinians, and Jordan, and his close personal friendship with ex-Israeli Prime Minister Rabin, going so far as to say he, quote, loved him. But we do not know for sure whether that is happening, but the mere possibility is haunting enough to keep the president up at night. We decided to write about this after Trump published a Truth Social post attacking our company, Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones, each of whom supported him for years. Rather than engaging in petty name-calling, we want to give the president some grace. He's facing a level of pressure that's dark enough to make him abandon his campaign promises and morph into the precise kind of politician he once vowed to destroy. He would not have let that happen unless his personal stakes were very high. We hope he overcomes. So, seems to be a very subtle shot across the bow suggesting Trump is pliable, manipulatable, easily blackmailed, and somebody who, again, is betraying his campaign promises and is morphing into a hypocrite, is becoming a caricature, the antithesis of himself. So, in a very Tucker Carlson way, it was insulting. Then, there's this. Tucker Carlson is selling anti-Trump merch, mocking the President of the United States amid bitter feud. Former Fox News host Tucker Carlson is trying to make a buck off his increasingly vicious feud with Donald Trump. Let's see. On Friday, the Tucker Carlson network responded to Trump's attack by touting a new line of baseball caps with the words, quote, low IQ emblazoned across them, capturing its advertisement. Quote, calling all nutjobs, troublemakers, and third-rate podcasters, new merch just dropped. In his Friday morning newsletter, Carlson, a reliable promoter of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, suggested that Trump might be the victim of an Israeli blackmail campaign. So, he's apparently trying to enrich himself off Trump's attacks on him as well. So again, the feud seems to be continuing. Will he respond in a more bombastic way, in a more vitriolic way? Who knows? He certainly was pretty bombastic and vitriolic in response to Trump's unhinged Easter Day morning post, talking about closing the fucking Strait of Hormuz and, threatening war crimes against Iran. He also condemned Trump's insane genocidal rhetoric, genocidal threat against the people of Iran. He was pretty vicious there, or pretty, I should say, outspoken for Tucker Carlson against Trump, calling the post evil, suggesting that Trump was the Antichrist. But in response to Trump unleashing here, he's adopted for more subtle insults, including, again, the anti-Trump merchandise. All right? But the other thing to consider is Laura Loomer. Now, Laura Loomer is one of Trump's closest advisors, closest fans. She's also been critical of Trump over the past year, to one extent or another. But now, like Ben Shapiro, she is fully supportive of Trump once again. I should note that she is very supportive of the Israeli government and supports the attacks on Iran. So obviously there's a foreign policy disagreement here between Laura Loomer and Tucker Carlson. And she's claiming a lot of the credit for helping drive Trump to finally have that meltdown and burn the bridge with Tucker Carlson. So let's play some clips from Laura Loomer, the de facto HR director at the Trump White House.
It's very disturbing to me. And you have Tucker Carlson, who I now am calling, it's like Tucker Carlson or Tehran Tucker. I mean, he really is truly our generation's Goebbels. He truly is. He is the Goebbels of our generation. And if you haven't realized that now or seen it, then I don't know, you must not be paying attention. But Tucker Carlson is truly the Goebbels of our time.
Yes, Tucker
I believe it's pronounced
Carlson.
Goebbels, but I don't want to correct her there. Okay, another clip. This one's about 50 seconds long.
And then you had the other evening
Buckler
Tucker
aluminum.
Carlson saying, "Oh, how dare you, President Trump, mock Islam? How dare you, President Trump, mock Islam?" So all these people are basically spewing IRGC talking points, propaganda. They're trying to 25th Amendment President Trump while he's trying to combat an Islamic regime. We have this clip of Tucker Carlson attacking President Trump over the fact that he criticized Islam. I mean, honestly, did Tucker Carlson convert to Islam? Because since when does Tucker Carlson give a shit about criticizing Islam? Really, truly. When does Tucker Carlson care about criticizing Islam? That's what I want to know. We're going to play clips that show you Tucker Carlson's real feelings about Islam from years ago when he was caught on audio calling Iraqis, what did he call them? He called them like illiterate monkeys.
Yeah, again, Tucker Carlson has said some unhinged shit, not just about Jews, but also Arabs and Muslims as well. I mean, again, there's no reason to root for any of these people. They're all monsters. The only incentive for us is to stir the pot and keep, trying to incite this full-blown MAGA civil war because it's objectively good for the country rather than have them unified. It's better for the country that Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump are at odds with one another as opposed to them being on the same side. You want to fracture that coalition as much as possible. But here's some more clips.
Even the president tonight said in his True Social post that Tucker needs to see a psychiatrist, okay? So he sounds crazy. He's either crazy, this is what it's either. It's either he's mentally ill, he's either relapsed as an alcoholic, or he's taking money from a Muslim country or taking money from somebody, okay? But the president has had enough of Tucker shit. And yeah, I'm just going to admit it. I sent the president Tucker Carlson's clip so he can see the shit that he says about him. I do. And I want that motherfucker Tucker Carlson to know that I'm the one who knifed him from the front. I want him to know. I'm not talking about physical violence, physical knifing, but yeah, I'm the one that sent the president all your shit, Tucker, because he deserves to see the fact that you are lying about him and you are smearing him and you are saying the most vile things about our country and our president, and you are creating so much chaos. You're going to cause the Democrats to take the House and the Senate, and you are endangering our national...
I mean, I hope she's right about Democrats taking the House and the Senate. That would be just chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. A couple more clips I want to play here. She finishes off one about Tucker Carlson and then attacks Megyn Kelly and others.
Tucker Carlson calls President Trump 10 times a week, and the president ignores his phone calls. He said it tonight in his own True Social post. I've heard him say it multiple times. The president doesn't want to listen to you, Tucker. He thinks you're crazy. You have
That's
one ally.
Something, bro.
You have one ally in the White House. You have one ally in the White House. We don't need to even get into it. We all know who it is. You have one ally in the White House, okay?
Probably talking about J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, the vice president, very close with Tucker Carlson. One last clip of Megyn Kelly, of Laura Loomer, and then I've got another one for you.
I know how President Trump operates. Like, he's not going to tolerate this type of disrespect. He's a very forgiving person, and he's a very gracious person. And I'm honestly shocked that it took Trump this long to lash out, and rightfully so, criticize these woke-like podcasters and people like Tucker and Marjorie and Candace and Megyn Kelly and Alex Jones. I'm surprised it took him this long, but I am so grateful. I was telling my friends, I was like, I'm going to frame this True Social post because I have been working so hard to get people in this administration to condemn Tucker Carlson because he is truly toxic to the Republican Party. He is
She says that he's toxic. Again, Tucker Carlson, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Candace, Megyn Kelly, she's celebrating the fact that they are on the outs. Again, we'll see what happens as far as whether or not they skitter back in. But what is important to be very clear about, Donald Trump still has a relatively tight grip over the MAGA cult. He's hemorrhaged some support at the margins, according to some polls. But at the end of the day, MAGA is a cult of personality. As Harry Enton notes, he is crushing Tucker Carlson. CNN's Harry Enton revealed that Donald Trump is mopping the floor with Tucker Carlson during an exceedingly blunt Friday morning segment. All right, so let's play some of this as well, just to make it very clear. Anyone who suggests that the MAGA civil war is resulting in a true 50-50 split is kidding themselves.
Let's start off with Tucker Carlson, who has been in absolute free fall with Republicans. I mean, just take a look at this. Look at this trend line. Tucker Carlson's net favorable. Back in March of 2024, when he and Donald Trump were very close friends, look at this. He was at plus 54 points. Look at where he is today at only plus 7 points among Republicans, and that includes GOP-leaning independents. I mean, that is a drop of what, 47 percentage points. My goodness gracious, when you go up against Donald Trump and you want to appeal to the Republican base, to quote the movie Good Burger, you go on the grinder, and that is exactly what has happened to Tucker Carlson, who has absolutely collapsed among Republicans.
So if it is a choice between the president and Tucker Carlson among these voters, what do they basically say?
Yeah, they choose Donald Trump basically every single time. Look at this. Okay, the exact same poll, this UMass Lowell poll. Look at this. Net favorables among Republicans. Again, this is Republicans plus Republican-leaning independents. You see Carlson on the right side of your screen at plus 7 points. Look at where Donald Trump is, at plus 61 points. And this is actually a little bit low for Donald Trump. In other polls around the same time, he was even higher than this. Again, he is crushing Tucker Carlson. What is this? This is a 54-point advantage for Donald Trump over Tucker Carlson when it comes to who is more popular among Republican voters. And of course, this isn't even just talking about the MAGA base, where Donald Trump is running an approval rating somewhere between 97 and 100%.
Okay, so what does this mean for Tucker Carlson going forward? Say Tucker Carlson wanted to build some kind of a platform where he could run for office, say president.
Yeah, okay. So you see Donald Trump crushing Tucker Carlson here. Take a look at this. Look at the Kalshi prediction markets when it comes to his chance, Tucker Carlson's chance to be the 2028 GOP nominee for president. It's just 5. When you can put it on one hand, you know it's low. It's just 5% that Tucker Carlson actually has enough support within the GOP, at least those who are putting their money where their mouth is, to actually be the GOP nominee in 2028. Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance are running well ahead of him.
That could change between now and then, but again, just want to be very clear. As far as MAGA is concerned, 7, 8, 9 times out of 10, if you defy Trump for any reason, you're on the losing issue as far as they're concerned. It is a cult of personality. But having said all of that, I actively encourage the MAGA civil war, and so should you. And hopefully it continues to chew up the MAGA base. Hopefully we see more defections. Hopefully we see a more split base. But as of right now, the base is not split. It's just the people at the top with big audiences like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, and others. We'll see ultimately down the line if it results in any sort of meaningful rebellion against Trump, but it is objectively the case that right now Trump is winning, not just because he's the sitting president, but also because the polls show that MAGA, they'll follow him without any sort of limiting principle until the very end. That said, though, he is insulting Trump, and he is selling anti-Trump merchandise on his website, or at least Trump merchandise that's making fun of Trump. So more of that, please. In the meantime, this is a fun follow-up to our equally fun previous video about Donald Trump finally going nuclear in a total meltdown on Truth Social on Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, and Megyn Kelly for daring to criticize him about his disastrous Iran war. Well, Candace Owens and Alex Jones have responded in very different ways. Owens openly mocking Trump's senility and cognitive decline, and Alex Jones suggesting that Trump is demonically possessed and condemning him. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, folks, as you know, I love the MAGA Civil War, and I make no apologies about it. On the one hand, it's something like I treat like a monster movie. Again, like Count Dracula versus Wolfman versus The Mummy versus Frankenstein's monster versus the creature of the Black Lagoon. It's a monster mash, and they all suck, and I love to see them fight each other because the alternative is a unified MAGA movement, which is much more dangerous for the country and democracy writ large. So let's focus on Candace Owens and Alex Jones. Hopefully, Megyn Kelly will respond, and Tucker Carlson has responded, but I want to address that in a separate video because there's a lot to unpack there. Let's start with the funner one, Candace Owens. Quote, time to put Grandpa up in a home. Candace Owens fires back after Trump's bonkers post attacking her and other MAGA critics. Controversial MAGA podcaster Candace Owens hit back at Donald Trump after his Thursday Truth Social post attacking her and other MAGA figures who criticized him. Owens, once a close ally of Trump, has long caused controversy over her wild conspiracy theories, from claiming Israel was behind 9/11 to doubling down so hard on her theory that the First Lady of France was actually a man that she was hit with a lawsuit directly from French President Emmanuel Macron. Owens claimed Macron personally asked Trump to stop her from continuing her attacks on his wife. The podcaster has triggered outrage in conservative circles over her consistent attacks on Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk's widow, and her recent call for U.S. troops to quit the military after Trump launched his war on Iran. Quote, "Do not join or remain in the United States military. Trump has betrayed America and expects you to die for Israel. There is no honor in being led by dishonorable men to your deaths." Her criticisms seem not to have gone unnoticed by Trump, who attacked her Thursday personally in a lengthy screed. So, we read it, right? And she highlights certain parts here. Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, low IQ. They're stupid people. They know it. Their families know it, and everyone else knows it too. Nobody cares about them. They're nut jobs, troublemakers, and will say anything necessary for some free and cheap publicity. Now, that part, I suppose, is true, particularly about Candace Owens and Alex Jones, more so even, I think, than Tucker and Megyn Kelly. But that was always the case, Trump, and you didn't give a damn. And by the way, Abby Phillip of CNN brought the receipts about things that Donald Trump used to say, until quite recently, about the people he's now openly attacking. So again, no fixed principles whatsoever, but that's the MAGA movement in a nutshell. In response to this, Candace Owens said, "It may be time to put Grandpa up in a home," openly mocking his senility, his age, his cognitive decline, his incoherence, his unstable mental state. It got 145,000 likes on right-wing Twitter. They love this. They love this. And a lot of people are supporting this as well. Candace starts unpopular war for Israel. Base is understandably pissed. Tries desperately for a ceasefire. Gets a ceasefire. Israel violates it by carpet bombing Lebanon. Blames Iran instead. Humiliation ritual. It's all Tucker, Megyn, Candace, Owens, and MTG's fault. This is Candace Owens' show responding to Candace Owens' personal tweet in response. Go back to 2016, 2020, or even 2024. You're a diehard Trump supporter. You have to join one of two groups. Group A is Candace, Tucker, Alex, and Megyn. Group B is Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, Lindsey Graham, and Ted Cruz. Who changed? To quote a CNN poll and brag about it being 100% and then call them fake news is a whole new level of zero self-awareness. Is the CIA cooking the brains of presidents just so they can fuck about as they please? Because this shit is similar, has a similar Biden feel to it. So again, people saying, actually, I'm with Candace. As much shit as we gave Joe Biden for being senile, Donald Trump seems as bad or worse. Garbage Human saying he's officially fucking lost it, posting a Soy Jack meme here of Donald Trump having a meltdown. Let's see. Ding, what do I have to do to be included on that list of patriots? So again, a stunning level of support. A stunning level of support here. Emily Austin, in defiance of this, agreeing with Trump, says, "And you've shown it's time to reopen the insane asylums." He's a pro-Trump supporter to this day. So again, it's generating a lot of attention. Just what a great response by Candace Owens. Again, love to stir the pot here. Love to see the MAGA Civil War, and I'm happy to cheer on whoever wants to take their proverbial rhetorical shots at Trump in the moment. Again, a disunified MAGA movement is much better than the alternative. That was Candace Owens. What about Alex Jones? Alex Jones also weighed in. Alex Jones says Trump's got big problems. Ask God to free him from the demonic influences. Alex Jones says he's praying for Donald Trump to be free, quote, from the demonic influences allegedly possessing him. So with that in mind, let's hear it from Alex Jones himself. He says Melania Trump just contradicted her husband and said that the Epstein base cover-up is real and needs to be investigated. In the below report, I respond to Donald Trump's unprecedented attack against myself and his other former top supporters. So let's hear it, Alex.
Well, President Trump came out on Truth Social and attacked myself and all the original MAGA supporters today. And I'm just so sad that whatever's happened to him has totally changed the man he once was. He did so much good. That said, it followed just a few hours after Melania Trump came out, unannounced, reportedly Trump didn't know, and said she wasn't involved with Epstein and she supports a full investigation by Congress into the Epstein cover-up. Trump says Epstein's a hoax. So this reminds me of Melinda French, when she started turning against Bill, also over Epstein. So Trump's got big problems, folks. And I am just so concerned about this country and the world. Trump's being led around by the nose by Netanyahu and by Mark Levin and others. And it's so sad. The Iran war is a total disaster. A black eye for America. They control the Strait of Hormuz. It is just absolutely incredible what we're seeing and what we're facing. I supported the old Trump. He got so many good things done. But at the end of the day, I just feel sorry for him and pray that God touch his heart and soul and free him from the demonic influences that he's under. I mean, it's just that simple. This is a nightmare. We know the Democrats, the left, are absolutely terrible, but when Trump's calling for wiping out whole civilizations and acting like a supervillain, I have to come out and say I don't support it. It's that simple. So again, Trump's own wife came out in an unannounced press conference today.
And we talked about that in a separate video yesterday as well. I mean, Melania made all sorts of political seismic shockwaves with her press conference in which she just blew the dust off the Epstein scandal, which is really embarrassing for Trump because before Iran, that was the persistent scandal which slowly whittled away at his approval rating. Again, some people very upset with Alex doing this. Alex has become what he fought against his entire life. There's still time to turn back. He hopped on the wrong wind current. Yes, still trying for Trump to turn back. Welcome back to the sinking Trump ship. No thanks, pal. So, again, he's apparently standing 10 toes down on this. He says, I've made it very clear that I no longer support Trump, and I'm very thankful to him for making it clear that I have nothing to do with him. The new Trump is a rotting husk of the old Trump. I hope 47 enjoys Mark Levin being his spirit animal. So, and apparently there's some more to it as well. So he did his, shtick in his car, and then he had this to say on his official show.
I just want to finish by saying your reputation's amazing. I will not let you down. You will be very, very impressed, I hope.
President Trump, you promised to never let me down, but now you let yourself and America down. There's still time for you to turn back and stop listening to your never-Trumper enemies.
Alex Jones is such a
Thursday, April 9th, 2026. Just an hour or so ago, President Trump on Truth Social put out this long post, one of the longest, if not the longest I've ever seen, attacking myself, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you name it, and just demonize the living hell out of us for challenging him, saying he would destroy an entire civilization in one night, never to come back, the definition of genocide. And he's told us Mark Levin is his brain. Mark Levin that wants nuclear strikes on Iran preemptively. Israel's calling for that. This is madness. And I was there 10 years ago supporting him against Ted Cruz when nobody else really in Texas was. I was there when they had Crossfire Hurricane coming up against him. Was the first to tell him about the illegal spying. I was there when I got sued by the Paul Weiss law firm with their whole fake show trial Sandy Hook garbage, the same law firm suing him. I was there and went through all of it with him. And I was so supportive in the last campaign and thought Doge was so amazing. And then Elon Musk left and said he's in the Epstein files. And everything started going sideways. Now he's giving glyphosate protection and the list.
So real quick, just want to say here two things, because again, I love to stir the MAGA Civil War pot. On the one hand, kudos to Alex Jones for recognizing Trump's rhetoric for what it was, genocidal. It was an explicit call to genocide. Kudos to him for calling it out and calling it madness. On the other hand, you don't have to you know how fucking crazy you have to be for Alex Jones to be like, yeah, that guy's crazy, number one. Number two, to his credit, Donald Trump, in his rant against Alex Jones, called out Alex Jones for his unbelievably callous and dishonest conspiracy theories about the Sandy Hook shootings and the victims of that. So point for Trump there. Of course, Trump knew about that all along and didn't give a damn until Alex Jones started criticizing him. So then I have to take that point away from Trump.
Goes on and on. It's a true nightmare. But I support the old Donald Trump, not the new Donald Trump. But now his own wife today, unannounced, reportedly he didn't know, came out and said, I was never in a relationship with Epstein.
And again, he talks about the Epstein stuff, which again, we just talked about in a separate video. I want to keep this focused on the fact that we're seeing Candace Owens and Candace Owens and Alex Jones openly escalate their rebellion against Trump. He says, this is Alex Jones quoting another video, goes, the best take I have yet seen on Trump crashing out. And it's from Ross Bennett responding to the attacks by Trump on Alex Jones, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Megyn Kelly.
If you really love America, you should not love all your politicians. And actually, you should probably dislike most of them. So for Trump to say that Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Alex Jones are all just low IQ, and that's the reason that they're having this beef with him right now, when they helped to get him elected and tried to help 3 times to get him elected, is just, in my opinion, This is a low IQ take. This is a stupid take. He even says they had like failed careers and that's the reason that they started their own stuff. Bro, their own stuff is 2 to 3 times bigger, if not more, than anything they did when they worked for the mainstream system. I don't know who's whispering shit into this guy's ear, like freaking Grima Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings, but they're telling you wrong stuff, bro. Half of the people that I grew up with in this movement are not on Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin's team. Okay? We aren't neocons. We aren't war hawks. We want America first. And if you make me choose between America first and MAGA, it's America first all day. That's what MAGA was supposed to be. You were just the best vessel for it, bro. Don't get it twisted.
He has gotten it twisted. And again, the polls show that the vast majority of MAGA are still with Trump on this because, again, it was never a principled movement. It was always a cult of personality. Liberals, progressives, Democrats, never Trump Republicans. We were always right. And MAGA was always wrong about what it was, or at least Alex Jones, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, they were wrong about what MAGA was, and they aided and abetted it regardless. Now, that said, I want to close out with this. Abby Phillip put this great compilation together. Trump's talking mad shit now, but as Alex Jones points out, he was saying different things about the people he's now attacking not too long ago.
Called Trump a genocidal lunatic, and she called for the 25th Amendment to be invoked. She responded to Trump's post tonight by saying it may be time to put Grandpa up in a home. But remember, it wasn't too long ago that Trump used all of these controversial voices to help him get elected.
I just mentioned a name, but a woman who I saw the other night on television just ripped some poor idiot apart. Megyn Kelly is here, and she's doing... Come up. Come up here, Megyn. By the way, I'm having a great time up here. Are you having a good time? This guy... Is he the greatest interviewer? Candace Owens, I watched her and I saw her coming. I said, you know, I'm pretty good at star power. I say, that's a star.
I just want to finish by saying your reputation's amazing. I will not let you down. You will be very, very impressed.
Donald Trump, let me say this. My audience, I'd say 90% supports you. Okay. And you definitely have shown your knowledge of geopolitical systems.
So President Trump is really struggling right now, trying pretty aggressively to shape the narrative. He appears to be talking to Iran through Truth Social. Not sure why that conversation can't happen in private. And then he is knocking down his one-time allies and trying to pretend as if he didn't talk to Tucker Carlson maybe about 6 weeks ago, if the New York Times is to be believed.
Yeah, so there you have it, folks. Of course, again, it comes back to MAGA is and has only ever been a fascistic cult of personality with no limiting principle or no fixed principles whatsoever. And again, we need to continue to do our part to feed the MAGA civil war, encourage the MAGA civil war, because the alternative...
Let's see. Oh yeah, I saw this channel the other day. This is really nice stuff to watch as we prep for Artemis later. Here's a couple videos here that are worth playing. So
when Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon for the first time in 1969, it was a moment that defined a generation. In the 5 decades since, we've sent rovers to Mars, probes to the edge of the solar system, and telescopes that can see back to the beginning of the universe. And yet, in terms of how far we've actually sent a human being, there has been zero progress. But that is about to change. Artemis 2 will carry 4 astronauts on a journey around the moon, and when they get there, they will be further away from Earth than any person has ever gone. This is the beginning of a new giant leap for our generation to witness, and the first small step for this crew will be towards solving a new problem that NASA has never had to figure out before. Going back to the moon isn't just a matter of building a rocket and pointing it in the right direction. The plan this time is to stay, to build a permanent human presence in deep space.
Oh, yeah.
To do that safely, you need to know exactly how your spacecraft behaves with human beings inside. That's what Artemis 2 is, a crude test of the most powerful rocket ever launched with 4 people on board who will find out if it's actually ready.
Hey,
This is who they are, what they're going to do, and why this mission is bigger than most people realize. Leading the mission will be Commander Reed Wiseman. He spent 27 years as a fighter pilot in the US Navy before joining NASA's astronaut ranks in 2009. He flew to the ISS for the first time in 2014 on board a Russian Soyuz rocket, and later became NASA's Chief of the Astronaut Office in 2020. Victor Glover will pilot the spacecraft, also a former US Navy airman who was deployed in Operation Iraqi Freedom. He made his first trip to Earth orbit in 2020 on board a SpaceX Dragon capsule. Christina Cook is a mission specialist. She has a background as an electrical engineer, Antarctic explorer, and firefighter before joining NASA in 2002. She holds the record for the longest single spaceflight by a female astronaut with 328 consecutive days in space. Jeremy Hansen is another mission specialist, also a veteran fighter pilot. Hansen has actually never been to space, but he has spent time as an aquanaut, which is long-duration deep-sea diving. He's also the first Canadian who will fly to the moon. These 4 people will spend 10 days in space on a flight that will take them around the moon and could reach a distance over 400,000 kilometers away from the Earth. That is further away from home than any human has ever traveled. From here, the Earth will look like a small and distant globe behind the lunar horizon, a sight that was first captured by the crew of the Apollo 8 mission in the year 1968. This is a photograph that has come to be known as Earthrise. It's the first clear image ever taken of the Earth and the Moon together. Before that, people had only seen grainy, low-quality images of outer space taken by cold, mechanical probes. This was a scene composed through the human eye and captured on color film, and it changed the world. Just like Artemis 2, Apollo 8 was the first crewed test flight of a brand new state-of-the-art technology, and we have come a long way since the 1960s. This is our new spacecraft. The design is known as Orion, but this particular capsule has been named Integrity by its crew. Compared to the old Apollo capsule, it has 60% more internal volume. That's what allows the vehicle to accommodate a crew of 4, while the previous moon missions capped out at 3. Beyond just an extra chair, the new design offers some luxuries that were not available in the past, chief among them being a space toilet. Ever since the space age began, engineers have obsessed over efficiency. When every gram matters, you design equipment that carries more while taking up less space. That same idea applies to something we all carry every day, our wallet. Exter makes one of the smartest wallets out there. It's about half the size of a traditional wallet, but still holds over 12 cards and cash. And instead of digging through layers of leather, you get instant access with Exter's signature trigger mechanism. One click and your cards slide out in a neat stack. It also has built-in RFID blocking to protect against wireless data theft and skimming, and if you add Exter's solar-powered tracker card, you can track your wallet right now from your phone. You'll get separation alerts if you leave it behind, and you can even make it ring to find it. The materials are impressive too, with options like space-grade aluminum and sustainable vegan leather, so it's durable while staying incredibly slim. And if you travel a lot, Exter also makes clever gear like their travel pack compression bags that help you pack more into your carry-on without bulking up your luggage. If you want to upgrade your everyday carry, use my code TheSpaceRace at the link in the description to get 20% off in addition to the current sale, which includes discounts of up to 65% off. Back in the Apollo days, the best and bravest NASA astronauts had to pee in a hose and poop into a plastic bag. Sometimes they missed, and that led to some nasty stuff floating around in a very confined space. Orion has the new Universal Waste Management System. It's based on the same toilet they use on the ISS, and it's located inside a wall of the spacecraft behind a small door for privacy. The astronauts will also be bringing a gym to the moon. Because these Artemis missions are designed to be long duration, the crew needs to exercise every day in order to maintain their muscle mass and bone density in the microgravity environment. so the capsule is equipped with this simple rowing machine that allows them to get in a full-body workout. For meals, the crew will be eating dried food packets that get rehydrated with fresh water. One of the advantages of a relatively short-duration spaceflight is that there's no need to recycle water on Artemis 2, so unlike astronauts on the ISS, they will not be drinking their own pee. Human waste from the toilet system will simply be vented out into space. And of course, the most important part of the mission, the crew will be taking photos and videos of the most spectacular view as they fly around the moon. The Orion spacecraft will be equipped with professional-grade Nikon cameras and lenses, along with a collection of GoPros that will be collecting footage inside the capsule for a Disney Plus documentary. And most importantly, Artemis 2 will be the first NASA mission where astronauts are allowed to bring their iPhones along with them to space. But before any of this can happen, there is Launch Day. This is what NASA has spent the better part of the last decade preparing for. They have already completed the first uncrewed test flight with Artemis 1 in November 2022, but now it's finally time for the real deal. The rocket and spacecraft are already on the launch pad and going through final checks as we speak. What we are looking at is actually two separate vehicles. There is the SLS booster and the Orion spacecraft. Beginning with SLS, this is the most powerful human-rated rocket booster ever made. So when our crew lifts off, there will be more thrust under their seat than any person has ever experienced. The majority of that power comes from two solid rocket motors strapped to the sides of the main rocket body. If you've ever flown a model rocket with that little cardboard tube of propellant, this is the exact same concept, just much, much, much bigger. Each side booster is the height of a 17-story building and capable of producing 3.6 million pounds of thrust. That's more power than two SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets combined. These also have some extra decoration for Artemis 2 with a big America 250 painted on the side of the booster. That is in celebration of the nation's founding in 1776, 250 years ago. It's a fitting tribute to put on this rocket when you consider that SLS and Orion were built by over 3,200 American suppliers and contractors across every state of the USA. In the middle is this giant orange fuel tank that will be filled with liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. On Earth, we are typically going to find hydrogen and oxygen in the form of a gas. So to convert that into a liquid state, we have to make it very cold, taking it down below negative 100 degrees to a cryogenic temperature. And the reason we do that is because a liquid is much more dense than a gas, which means that we are going to get a much more powerful reaction when we set it on fire. Down at the base of the fuel tank is where all of the fire happens. We have 4 RS-25 rocket engines that combine the two liquid propellants and ignite them to create even more liftoff power. Now, if any of this stuff looks familiar, that's probably because we are looking at the exact same approach that NASA took with their space shuttle program. The big orange tank, side boosters, hydrogen fuel, it's all taken from the old shuttle playbook. Particularly the RS-25 engines, which were literally taken from retired space shuttles. NASA made the smart decision to save those for future projects, and now they are ready to launch people into space once again as part of the SLS rocket. At T0, the 4 hydrogen-burning engines will ignite first and throttle up. Now, they don't have enough power on their own to actually lift the rocket, but they are still very important for the ascent phase, because unlike the side boosters, these are able to swivel around and point the nozzles in different directions. That's how the rocket booster steers itself through the atmosphere. Once the core stage is running smoothly, this is when ground control is going to ignite 2 side boosters. These provide more than 75% of the rocket's total thrust, so once they get started, things are going to move really fast. They are also going to get really bright. When the first SLS launched on Artemis 1, it was the brightest rocket in history. It literally turned night into day for the area around the launch site. Now, up here in the nose cone is where our crew is going to be riding this out. Their Integrity capsule is hidden behind a white cover, so they won't be able to see anything other than their instrument panels, and then on top of the cover is this really pointy bit. That is the capsule's launch abort system. Here's how that works. About halfway up the spike are 4 small rocket motors. If at any point during the launch the flight computer senses anything going wrong with the engine's performance or the trajectory of the SLS, it is going to ignite the launch abort system. Those 4 motors will pull the capsule away from the rocket booster, then the capsule will separate from the abort system and deploy its parachute so that everyone will safely float
Hello
back
there,
down
Goldilocks.
and
Hello
land
there,
in the water.
ADHD queen.
This is the main reason why Artemis
What
2 will
up?
probably launch in the middle of
Wait,
the
why
night.
does it say your mic
If,
on mute
for
when it's
whatever
not on
reason, the
mute?
crew has to perform a high-altitude abort, then the capsule might
Are you
end
a
up coming
hacker?
down somewhere
No,
halfway
she's
around the world.
right there.
And we don't want rescue teams on the open ocean
Wait, is
trying
she
to
right
find
there where
them
you at?
in the dark.
Come
So
here.
if it's night in Florida,
Come
then
say
it's
hi.
going to be morning in Africa. And that
Wait a
provides
minute,
just a
hold on,
little
hold
more
on, hold
peace
on,
of
hold on.
mind if
Yeah, she moved in.
Hi. This one.
I get back on cam.
Oh, come here.
Get back.
No.
Get back on cam and do. Get back on your camera and do the same thing because this is so funny.
That's my baby.
I know. Hello, child.
Whoa, just kidding.
He's saying get back on cam.
Yeah, get back on cam. Okay, I'm just gonna record.
Okay.
And I want you to do the same thing. Hold on.
He says he wants you to do it again.
Oh, go over there?
Yeah.
It's over here.
Yeah,
Over
do it,
there.
do it. Yeah,
Go over
yeah,
here.
yeah. Go.
Do
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
do
Just go,
it.
just go. Yeah, this is so funny. I'm just gonna record it for the fun.
Hey.
What you doing?
This is magic. This is pure magic. This is pure sorcery.
Almost did it.
All right, we're done.
Just for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, you can
Now
go
the
back
other
to where
one?
you at.
All right, you can go back.
Okay, I'll go back.
All right, this is going to be back in the archives.
Don't you dare.
I am a funny guy.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who is? Some would say.
You know, man, what happened to Gaspar, by the way?
To
Casper. Oh.
to Gaspar, I have no idea. I'll be honest with you, I kind of really don't give a shit.
Because he banned you?
Yeah. And the whole vibe there was pretty fucking dumb.
Yeah. Even considering when I met you, bro, we were talking about like I don't know, like you were like derailing the entire conversation to everyone, and then like you were
Yeah,
stealing the
hell
whole
yeah.
room. You were recording the whole room.
It bothered him. And then after I went, everybody went.
I mean, even me, even Josh.
Yep.
I have so many tabs up.
Even Paul, who fucking hates my guts now.
What happened?
Oh, Israel stuff.
Paul, like I told him about my story about me trying to commit suicide that day.
Oh.
Like it was like this. I don't want to get like into problem with it, but like, he said like, why don't you like, I told him about my story about like leaving religion for like, a couple of months. Then I reverted back because I was gonna kill myself, and he was like, was being mean to me.
Yeah, that's not fucking.
And he was like, no,
that's
you
not
should
fucking
definitely
nice.
leave.
Sorry.
I'll punch him.
Yeah. Pretty fucked up.
I would fist his asshole, Loki.
Well, don't say that to Aurora, because she'll
do it anyway.
She'll
too.
hold you to that. Yeah.
You better.
I mean, don't worry about him. Because he likes to get fucked by his own dog. So don't worry about it.
I'm not worried. At this point, like, I'm not spending my time thinking about it. I'm living my life. Shit, my girlfriend just
I don't
moved
wanna
in.
mention
I'm
these-
not thinking about fucking Paul. Are you kidding me?
Nobody does.
Yeah. No thanks.
Paul needs a hug.
Yeah. What are you up to? What you been doing?
Me?
Yeah.
Catching wins, same as always.
Nice.
Getting my sooner. Yeah, I need to revise that. I'm going to watch The Boys.
Yeah,
Season.
she hasn't watched too much of it. I need to watch it with her.
Yeah, it was super
before I
gory.
watch season 5. I gotta
gory.
catch her up, so we gotta go
Bro,
fast
the whole show
through
was
that
so
movie.
rancid.
All getting in.
So good though.
The whole show was rancid.
So fucking good though. So great.
You know, honestly, I miss.
One of the
You
greatest
know, honestly,
shows.
I miss. You know, honestly, I miss your profile picture when it was Pickle Rick.
Oh yeah, those. When I was Pickle Jordan.
Yeah.
Or Passionate Pickle.
Yep.
That's who they knew me as in the beginning.
Oh wow.
They called me. They were like, "Yo, Passionate," when we were debating and shit. I'm like, "Sup?"
I want some cheesecake right now.
Ooh.
Get some fucking cheesecake, dog. Do it. Get some motherfucking cheesecake.
We could go walk and get some right now.
To the cheesecake. I love how stoked you are to be here.
That's all I can do. We'll walk everywhere. We'll walk
My
to
face
this.
looks good, Luis.
Look at you. Where is your face? Like, it's gone. I don't even remember what you look like these days.
Look at what Leah posted in the politics general. FBI
man.
document says that Epstein introduced Melania to Trump.
Oh, well, that's crazy, but I'm not gonna.
That's kind of weird. Like,
I mean,
Trump
yeah,
even
but
cheated
I'll
on
be
her
honest
multiple
with
times,
you,
and she's still
the
willing to be
amount
with him.
of stuff that Leo posts in politics that turns out not to be true, I just don't really pay much attention to what he posts in there. I got lots of love for the guy as a friend, but like, you know, he posts a lot of shit that's fake, so I don't really.
He
pay
posts a
much
lot of
attention to
propaganda.
that. Yeah.
I'll be back. Start preparing
Where are you going?
for the interview.
Right now?
Soon.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little early.
Okay. Well, my hair does need to.
Oh yeah, if you need to get ready, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Leave me up, baby.
Oh, of course. Of course. Bye, Mo.
Bye.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. Just like it's hard to take him super seriously when like all he does is post stuff from fucking Twitter. But like talking to him, I have good conversations. But just like I don't really pay too much attention to what a lot of them post in politics general, because a lot of it is just fucking straight slop, you know. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm holding me fucking rocking. I want to see my vacuum Delta V. Where my engines at? Diagnosis, Navi. That's tiny. This is full. Artemis. This has to be cryogenic, doesn't it? Which means there's a boil off. Hope it's not too late. It's gonna be an interesting attempt here. We shall see how well it works. Are you watching my stream?
I'm watching anime right now. I'll just come in and drop a like.
Doing rocket stuff on my stream. S2.
Yeah, I see.
60K. Boom.
Damn, my voice is really good.
Yeah? You sounded good. Hey, thanks for the follow, Kurt. S2.
Hey, thanks for the follow, Kurt.
Hey. Rude.
Meow. I have a question for you. So, if okay, this is not your racist. You like this is not a racist question. This does not involve Judaism, anything. This involves like racial preferences. Like, do you think racial preferences, like let's just say, there's a guy who likes a white chick, like a black dude only loves white girls, or like a white girl that loves only black guys. Do you think that's just racist to have race preferences?
No.
And why is that?
Because I mean, like, you're attracted to who you're attracted to. It's not like you choose that. You just are, right?
Yeah. I often find people think if you have like racial preferences means you're racist, and I'm like, what? It's not.
That's kind of weird, honestly, if you ask me. But
Like, I got called racist for saying I don't like black
people
girls.
always have their opinions, you know.
Oh my god, please, will the Trump again?
I know you love it. Don't lie.
I kind of don't. I gotta cope with it. I must cope with it.
Millions motors. Interstage. Auxiliary propulsion. That's an RCS. Nice. So, 5-way. Sick. Double that. No, I think I need to. Okay. Now we've got the first stage.
Oh my god, I love Purple Chat.
What happened?
This is a server in Anime Salt, an anime Discord server. I am barely able to hold myself back from killing that motherfucker. Oh my god, I don't want to say it for the cause of the stream. I don't want to say the rest.
What is it?
Some guy is just saying violent stuff, and it's not good for the stream.
Well, that's not nice.
Hmm.
That's not a nice thing to do. Get this motherfucker to scale correctly. Do I have to shroud this guy? There's no shroud. That's not right. That's not right.
Bro,
Yo.
hold on. Hold on, this is so fucking funny, bro. These motherfuckers are retarded.
Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, that'll do it. Then here. For huge motors. Right on those lines. Where my huge motors. Boom. Get the stacked decoupler. Huge motors. Get the skirt. Oh. Because this one is not just a skirt. This one actually has a tank in it. 6K liquid fuel tank. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Engine mount. Let's raise this up a little bit. Ah. Or aerodynamics. These. Launch. This one. Let's go. Does this have hydrogen? No. Does this have hydrogen? Does this have hydrogen? Yes, but not much. We're gonna need more than that. Solar panels. Okay. Oof. Let's see if we can. C A D N. Cryogenic stages. This is gonna be one. Cool. Yep. Yeah.
These motherfuckers are insane, bro.
Thanks for the follow, a lot.
Secret to eternal happiness. You stupid people. We train the most human.
You know how in shows and movies where there's like a multiverse and there's like a million different variants of the character? There's always that one variant that's like prime character, the best one.
I can hear your stuff, buddy.
يلا روح نام. Good night, Jordan.
See you, buddy.
the worst case scenario were to happen. But that is highly unlikely, so assuming everything goes well, at about 2 minutes into flight, the side boosters will separate from the core of the SLS. This is a really cool sight to see. As they fall back, each booster is going to drag a giant tail of sparks from the burning embers of propellant. At this point, the rocket is about 50 kilometers above the Earth, or halfway to space, but the power of the side boosters has pushed it through the most dense part of the atmosphere, so now the SLS is able to cruise on those 4 hydrogen-burning engines. About 1 minute later, the launch abort system is going to separate from the nose of the rocket, and our crew will finally be able to see out of their windows. So don't confuse that with an actual abort. At this altitude, with such a thin atmosphere, it's not needed anymore. The capsule can still perform an emergency return to Earth, but it doesn't require those extra motors in the spike to do that. The SLS core is going to continue burning until 8 minutes and 30 seconds into flight, which is an altitude of about 150 kilometers. At that point, the main engines will shut down and the big orange tank will separate from the rocket's upper stage. Now there's one more hydrogen engine on board the second stage of the SLS that will keep pushing the crew until their spacecraft is inserted into a very high Earth orbit. Then the second stage engine will separate at 20 minutes into the mission, and we will be left with just the Orion spacecraft. Only a tiny little fraction of that gigantic rocket stack that lifted off. From here, the crew will be flying in an oval-shaped path around the Earth. We call this an elliptical orbit. So on one end, they are going to be very high above the surface, about 70,000 kilometers, which is already further from the Earth than any person has gone in decades. And then on the other side of the oval, they'll be at a relatively low altitude of just 185 kilometers. This is by design. They are going to hang out here for a couple of days, performing a very thorough systems check of the Integrity capsule and its attached service module. That's the short cylinder section of the vehicle where the main engines and maneuvering thrusters are located. It's also where all of the crew's oxygen and water is stored, and the solar panels attached to the service module provide power for the entire mission. They generate enough electricity to supply 2 average American homes. The first thing we need to confirm is that the life support system is working as expected. That's the most important part. Second is the Orion's navigation and thruster controls. You might remember an incident from last year where 2 astronauts were quote-unquote stranded in space. They were also flying the first crewed mission with a new capsule design called the Boeing Starliner, and it ended up having some pretty serious problems with the vehicle's maneuvering thrusters. They were so bad that the Starliner had to return home empty while its crew waited another 6 months to catch the next ride back to Earth. Now, we don't want to see a repeat of that on a moon landing, so the Orion crew is going to verify the performance of their spacecraft by performing a simulated docking maneuver. So the first thing that happens is the autopilot system will flip the vehicle around to get the nose pointing in the opposite direction. From here, Victor Glover will take over with manual control of the spacecraft and begin steering back towards the ejected second stage of the SLS rocket, which is still coasting in the same orbit as the capsule itself. There are black and white markings on the second stage that Glover is going to use as targets to line up the nose cone of Orion and proceed as if they were going to dock with another spacecraft. The two won't actually touch each other, it's just a way to test the control system, because on future Artemis missions, the Orion capsule will need to perform an actual docking procedure with a separate moonlander. If at any point during this testing phase there is a system failure or any concern that the astronauts might be in danger, then they are going to use that low spot in the elliptical orbit to separate the capsule from the service module and return to Earth. Now, assuming everything checks out, they are going to use the high side of the oval to ignite the service module engines and perform a translunar injection burn. That is going to put the Orion into a free return trajectory with the moon, which is a fancy way to say that they are going to let gravity take control from here on. As they swing out past the far side of the moon, its gravity will pull them back around to the near side, at which point the gravity of the Earth will take over and pull them back home. This is a highly efficient flight plan, and it's actually what saved the astronauts on board Apollo 13 after they suffered an explosion on board the spacecraft that damaged their oxygen supply and knocked out power to their service module. On this trajectory, it will take Artemis 2 another 4 days to reach the moon. During that time, the astronauts will be conducting a lot of experiments, mostly on themselves, to monitor the effects of a deep space environment on the human body. We didn't have wearable computers with biometric sensors back in the Apollo days, so there's a new opportunity to learn a lot about biology in space, particularly the effects of cosmic radiation, which is also why astronauts will be testing an emergency radiation shelter on their journey. The spacecraft is already shielded against the background radiation of space, but there is always the risk of getting caught in a solar flare or coronal mass ejection, which is a random event when the sun kicks out a big chunk of its own radioactive atmosphere into space. Now, it's very unlikely that one of those would hit the spacecraft while it's outside the protective atmosphere of the Earth, but there is a plan just in case. The crew will practice moving into a storage area below the floor of the main capsule space, where they'll be surrounded with bags of food and other supplies. The idea is that this will provide extra shielding in case of a solar event. When Artemis 2 finally reaches the moon on day 6 of the mission, they are going to approach from a very wide arc and make their closest pass over the far side of the moon, coming within about 10,000 kilometers of the surface. That's actually much further out than any of the Apollo missions. They were down at just over 100 kilometers. So the big difference now is that we'll be able to see the moon from a much wider perspective. The crew will see more of the lunar surface than any other person before. And using modern technology, they can still zoom in with telephoto lenses and high-resolution sensors to see all of the close details as well. Unfortunately, their time with the moon will only last a few hours. Just as quickly as they arrive, they'll continue that loop and begin the return journey to Earth, which will take another 4 days. That leaves just one final action, the most dangerous point in the entire mission: re-entry. As Orion barrels towards the Earth, the propulsion system is going to perform one final adjustment to put the spacecraft on an angle that will impact the Earth's atmosphere. Then the service module will separate from the capsule, and Integrity will flip around to point its heat shield down towards the surface. Now, we've gotten pretty familiar with seeing crews re-enter the atmosphere on space shuttle missions or in SpaceX Dragon capsules, but coming home from the moon is not in the same ballpark as returning from the ISS. Artemis 2 will be traveling much faster, over 40,000 kilometers per hour, and the heat that their capsule will experience tops out at over 2,760 degrees Celsius. This is why NASA did their first test on Artemis 1 without any people on board. We've seen the Orion capsule survive this re-entry once before, and that gives us confidence that our crew will be safe when they return home from the moon. Although the word safe is relative when it comes to human spaceflight. Anything involving rockets and traveling beyond the protective atmosphere of the Earth is going to be inherently dangerous. There is no way around that. But if everything goes according to plan, the Integrity capsule will splash down in the Pacific Ocean about 50 nautical miles off the coast of San Diego, California. That is where a combined team of the US Navy, Air Force, and NASA will be waiting to recover the crew and capsule. This will be a historic moment, not just for NASA, but for human spaceflight on a global scale. It's a small reminder of our true capability as explorers. Because of course, people have walked on the surface of the moon. They did that a long time ago. And that's not what Artemis 2 is trying to be. It's not about a rush to plant a new flag. It's the beginning of a new chapter in human exploration of outer space. So we are on the verge of something amazing right now, but we still have so much more to come. In March 2026, NASA revealed an ambitious new plan for the future of American space exploration. On the surface, this is a blueprint for colonizing the moon, which is incredible, but the even more important revelation is that NASA itself has fundamentally changed into something that the world has not seen in decades. And the reason for this change goes deeper than just new leadership. There is a great power competition that will play out on the moon in the decade to come. The old NASA was set to lose that contest, but the new NASA is playing to win, And this is how they're going to do it. When Administrator Jared Isaacman took the stage at NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C., there was one simple word projected on the screen behind him: ignition. That word announces the beginning of a transformative journey for the American space program. The status quo has been rejected and replaced with a new direction to set high expectations and then meet them. Isaacman acknowledges that for decades, NASA has been spread too thin. They've tried to make everyone happy and in the process have accomplished very little. The result has been billions of taxpayer dollars wasted and years of progress lost. He also made it clear why that change must begin right now, because there is more to lose than just time and money. There is a great power competition with the Chinese to stake the first permanent claim on the moon. And this is nothing like the space race the world saw before in the 1960s.
But this time, the goal is not flags and footprints. This time, the goal is to stay. America will never again give up the moon.
Now, we have heard these words before from NASA administrators and politicians over the past decades, but words are hollow without actions, and historic actions require intelligent plans, which is the one thing that NASA has lacked since the very beginning of the Artemis moon program. Better late than never. A detailed, achievable, step-by-step blueprint for the Artemis moon base has finally arrived. And it all begins with a complete overhaul of the moon landing schedule as we have come to know it. For the first big change, there will be no boots on the moon for Artemis 3. This has been reformatted into a dress rehearsal mission that will play out in low Earth orbit. Now, this probably sounds counterintuitive to everything we just said, but it's not. Because the old plan had a jump from Artemis 2, which is a crewed test flight of the Orion spacecraft, to landing on the moon using an entirely separate and unproven HLS vehicle. This was an unachievable goal, and the risk factor was so high that it never would have gotten off the ground. So the launch date became a can that was kicked further and further down the road with every year that passed. Under the new direction, Artemis 3 will instead feature the crewed Orion spacecraft and the lander vehicle meeting up in low Earth orbit for a rendezvous and docking procedure. The crew will then transfer into the lander for a test of the life support, communications, and propulsion systems. If possible, they'll also test the new lunar EVA spacesuits inside the lander airlock for the first time. Doing this in low Earth orbit means that problems can be solved and lives can be saved if anything doesn't work as expected. We already know about the Orion spacecraft, but this new moon lander is still a bit of a question mark. For many years now, this was assumed to be a lunar variant of the SpaceX Starship, but now, that is not so certain. Isaacman has confirmed that Blue Origin is back in the race alongside SpaceX with their Blue Moon lander, and one or both of these vehicles will be tested on Artemis 3. It all depends on who can get the job done in time for launch. This is a big aspect to the new direction at NASA. Even SpaceX can be put on notice. Just because you won a contract in 2022 does not mean you are guaranteed a moon landing. The only thing that matters now is execution, and the first company to achieve their goal will be the one who sends American astronauts back to the moon. The deadline for Artemis 3 has been moved up to next year, 2027. And then, once the new lunar lander is confirmed, the winner will be expected to keep moving at incredible speed. They now have only a few months to test their vehicle in an uncrewed moon landing and then turn around a completed design for Artemis 4. This mission is now scheduled for early 2028, and this is when America returns to the moon with a landing in the South Pole region. But, like Isaacman said, this is not about flags and footprints, so to make their point clear to the world, NASA will land people on the moon again in 2028 with Artemis 5 scheduled before the end of that year. Now, that sounds overly ambitious, but this is how NASA used to operate in their golden era. The turnaround time between the first moon landing on Apollo 11 and the next landing on Apollo 12 was just 120 days. And this is more than just a flex. This will set the new tempo for American moon landings, with a crew arriving on the surface once every 6 months from here on out. This is also where NASA's commitment shifts to establishing their permanent outpost on the moon. And that begins with prioritizing surface operation over everything else. So the Lunar Gateway space station that was originally planned to orbit the moon, that's no longer on the table. But it doesn't mean that time and resources spent building the Gateway have been wasted either. All of the hardware that has already been developed for the station is being repurposed into the design of the first moon base. The construction of that base will happen over 7 years, and NASA has set themselves a budget of $20 billion to get this done. It all plays out in 3 phases, and this starts right now. Phase 1 covers 2026 to 2028, and the primary goal over this time is to secure reliable access to the surface of the moon with a high launch cadence. That means sending 25 missions in the first 3 years, with 21 of those being lunar landings. 2 of those will be crewed missions, but the majority of this phase is about experimenting with new technologies for the future moon base operations. This includes sending nuclear power to the moon. There is a sunlight problem up there that needs to be solved, and nuclear energy is the only way to do it. The day and night cycle of the moon is a lot longer than what we know on Earth, so the Artemis base will experience 2 weeks of continuous sunlight, but then it will be plunged into another 2 weeks of darkness. During that time, the temperature will drop below negative 200 degrees Celsius, and without a source of heat, all of the hardware will freeze solid. That tends to be really bad for electronics, and they typically don't come back to life when the sun rises again. So NASA is going to experiment with radioisotope thermal generators. Basically, you have a radioactive element like plutonium that is actively decaying. That process naturally releases heat, and this heat can be captured to prevent assets on the moon from freezing solid. What kind of assets are we talking about here? Well, NASA has a radical new idea for exploring the moon: rocket drones. They call this new vehicle Moonfall. It's based on the Ingenuity Mars helicopter platform, but instead of propellers, it uses small rocket thrusters to move around. Each drone can fly for 150 seconds in one hop and cover up to 50 kilometers distance. They are going to use these to explore dangerous and hard-to-reach locations like tops of mountains and edges of deep craters. During Phase 1, NASA will also deploy their Viper rover. This is a golf cart-sized vehicle that is already built, tested, and has been waiting for a ride to the moon for years. 2027 will finally be that year. Viper will arrive at the moon on a Blue Origin lander. Once there, it's going to begin mapping the South Pole region for confirmed signs of water ice and other volatile materials like hydrogen, oxygen, and rare earth metals. NASA considers this to be lunar prospecting. Establishing the locations of these resources will be critical when Phase 3 comes around. Viper will be joined on the ground by 2 lunar terrain vehicles, one to be driven by the crew members and one that drives autonomously. Each rover will be able to cover up to 900 kilometers of the lunar surface, and beyond just exploration, they'll be used for work purposes like moving equipment and leveling ground for new construction. Overhead will be a new group of lunar communications and observation satellites. These will allow continuous data streaming from any location on the moon to the surface of the Earth with a 500 megabyte per second throughput. They'll also provide a continuous view of the entire lunar surface from space. Now, this is very important to us, as in you and me, because NASA has mandated that all of these vehicles we just mentioned, the drones, the rovers, the electric cars, they are all going to be equipped with high-quality cameras that will live stream their entire mission back to Earth for everyone in the world to see. That sets us up for Phase 2, the transition into building a moon base. This plays out from 2029 to 2032. It involves 27 launches and 24 landings, and includes the first infrastructure for permanent habitation modules. Over this time, NASA will deliver 6 new rovers, and these go beyond just exploration. NASA is talking about excavation in this phase, machines that can move rock, level ground, dig trenches for power cables and pipelines. We are building the foundation for things to come. One of these new rovers will also be the first pressurized mobile habitat. It's a vehicle being developed by the Japanese Space Agency in partnership with Toyota. The 15,000 kilogram vehicle will essentially become an apartment on wheels. Astronauts inside will be comfortable enough to hang out in short-sleeved t-shirts and will travel at a speed of 3.5 kilometers per hour for days on end. The rover is expected to have a 10-year lifespan and will operate for up to 150 hours in total darkness. Phase 2 will also demand more power than ever before, and that comes in 2 flavors. The first will be solar energy. Solar panels will be mounted on top of long poles to capture as much sunlight as possible, and they'll be connected into large battery systems for long-term energy storage. That is going to be supplemented with nuclear power, and this goes beyond just keeping things warm. NASA will deploy nuclear fission reactors to the moon that generate hundreds of watts of electricity and supply multiple assets simultaneously. By the end of Phase 2, everything will be in place to support people living on the moon for extended durations. Now, Phase 3 is where we actually move in. This covers everything from 2033 onward, and the highlight of Phase 3 will be permanent habitation of the Artemis moon base. NASA projects that they can have a rotating crew of 4 people staying on the moon for 28 days on a single mission. People will be living in multiple connected modules, basically a space station like the ISS or what Gateway was imagined to be, except built on solid ground. The habitat modules will be powered directly by their own nuclear fission generator and will be supplied with around 8,000 kilograms of food, water, and air every month. Outside of the base, NASA will begin their first in-situ resource utilization. That means harvesting rock and soil from the environment and using it to their advantage. Water can be extracted from ice reserves in the bottom of shadowed craters. The water can be split into oxygen to breathe and hydrogen to use as fuel. NASA is also going to start experimenting with 3D printing, taking dust from the surface and melting it down into a pourable cement that will eventually build the first genuinely permanent structures on the moon. Now, if you're thinking that this sounds like doing the impossible, then you are not crazy. NASA has admitted that what they are trying to achieve is very nearly impossible. But that's kind of the point. We're not doing this because it is easy, but because it's hard.
It is hard.
The Chinese are also fully prepared to do hard, nearly impossible things. These are the stakes of the new space race. Good enough is no longer good enough. And NASA knows something now that they've been missing for a long time. Because the real key objective of this whole Artemis plan isn't actually to build a moon base. The real imperative is to inspire the next generation of scientists and engineers, the young people who will accomplish things in their lives that we would genuinely believe to be impossible today. But those kids will never do that if they don't have the motivation to go out and make it happen. It's NASA's job to lead by example, and they haven't been doing that for a very long time. But the future is finally back on track today. If you want to see a vision of what NASA's city on the moon will look like beyond Phase 3 of the Artemis plan, then click the box on the screen right now. By now, you've probably seen Elon Musk's announcement. SpaceX has already shifted focus to building a self-growing city on the moon. And the reasoning behind that shift is simple. You can build a moon base in 10 years, that will be hard, but it's not impossible. While building a city on Mars would take at least 20 years, probably more if it's even doable at all. Which realistically, there's always been a good chance it just doesn't work and everyone dies. Elon himself has admitted this in no subtle terms on many different occasions. Now, that's not to argue that the moon is entirely safe, but we know that if you get sick or injured on the moon, you can come home, while the journey to Mars, that was always going to be a one-way trip. So we might know why this is happening, but exactly what is about to happen is going to look more like science fiction than anything NASA has ever dreamed up. What is a self-growing city
What up,
on the moon?
Rooney?
Well, if you've been following this story for any amount of time, you'll probably recognize that this is one of many statements from Mr. Musk that is designed to be highly provocative, yet purposefully vague. It's like Tesla's new mission statement, to build a world of amazing abundance. Sounds cool, but what does it really mean? That's open to interpretation. Though the self-growing city terminology
I think
does
a lot
give
of it
us
is
a
bots,
pretty
to be
solid
honest,
hint in the
though.
direction
There's been
that
like
this
an
is all
uptick
going.
in
AI,
bots
automation,
going around and following
robots.
random ass people, but you know
So
what? I'll
it's
fucking
probably
take it.
not a coincidence that SpaceX just purchased an entire AI company, one that just happens to also be owned by Musk. XAI itself also owns the social media platform X and is best known for their multi-talented AI language model Grok. And strangely enough, it's actually through XAI that we've learned more specific details about what Elon plans to build on the moon. The first thing will be satellites. SpaceX now plans to build satellite factories on the lunar surface equipped with a radical invention that will launch them into orbit. But these are not satellites like Starlink or anything else we know today. This lunar factory will produce orbital data centers for running super advanced AI models
So
on
Aurora
Earth. And to make
officially
those
moved in
satellites,
last night.
they'll be using resources harvested from the moon itself. Now,
my
this
God.
still doesn't tell us why SpaceX has to
That's
go to the
wild,
moon
my
to
dude.
build AI satellites. Because what SpaceX is trying to do here is to solve the
Yeah.
hardest part of the equation, which is
She's
moving
off,
a satellite from the ground
going to an
to
interview
space.
right now, but
This is the most
yeah.
important part of SpaceX and XAI's plan for the moon. To move those satellites from the surface and into Earth orbit, SpaceX will build something called a mass driver, also sometimes referred to as a railgun. It works kind of like a train engine on a track. It accelerates an object to escape velocity and then flings it out into space using energy from powerful electromagnets. It's actually not that different from the technology that allows an electric car to launch from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. And guess what? Musk has some experience in that field already. Because the moon is much smaller than the Earth, it has no
Yeah.
atmosphere to create
And
wind
way
resistance.
lower gravity.
It
That kind of
therefore
thing
has a
could actually
relatively low escape velocity, which is the speed required to overcome gravity. On Earth, that speed would be 11.2 kilometers per second, but escape velocity from the moon is a mere 2.38 kilometers per second. For anyone trying to do the math,
Way
that's
less.
still over 8,600 kilometers per hour. So while this is similar to an electric car in theory, it's still the biggest, most powerful electric vehicle ever conceived. Regardless of that challenge, though, it would still be so incredibly easy to reach space from the moon when compared to the massive complications of launching from Earth. From the moon, you don't actually need rockets or fuel or any kind of hardware that consumes resources and requires maintenance. It's all reduced down to magnets, a big steel rail, and electricity. Now this is all cool, but who's going to build all of this crazy stuff on the moon? Well, it's not going to be guys in spacesuits, that's for sure. It's gonna have to be robots. And we also know where those robots are coming from. That's Optimus, the Tesla bot. And it is working toward being able to accomplish one key thing to make building on the moon a reality. You see, building on the moon has a major challenge because we can't bring the Earth along with us no matter how hard we try. Let's use the Apollo missions as our example. The Saturn V moon rocket. It stands as one of the most powerful machines ever created by human beings. It towers over almost every other rocket in existence, and this is the payload that Saturn V was able to deliver onto the surface of the moon. The lunar module. Just barely enough hardware to land a pair of astronauts, keep them alive for 3 days, and then blast them back off into space. One of the lofty goals that Musk has recently spoken about for the Tesla bot is achieving a level of self-replicating technology that works in a very similar way to the old sci-fi concept of the von Neumann probe. If you're not familiar, the idea is to make a spacecraft that would be able to explore the galaxy at slower than light speed over the course of millions of years. Of course, no one machine could possibly operate for that long, so the von Neumann probe would land on the first stable planet it encountered and deploy an automated, robotic factory that would begin harvesting raw materials from the new planet and constructing new spaceships. Then the replicated ships would go off in all directions and find their own planets to set up shop and build more spaceships, and on, and on, and on, until the von Neumann probes have spread throughout the entire galaxy. That's what people are always hoping to discover when one of these interstellar objects is spotted in our solar system, like 3I Atlas. It's the potential to see an ancient alien probe in action, although as far as we can tell, it always just turns out to be a weird rock. But that concept applied to Tesla's Optimus would be more than just robots building robots. It would be robots mining ore, making plastic, building electric motors, fabricating new microchips, all on their own without any need for human intervention. Now, when we go back to that term, self-growing city, we are beginning to really understand what Elon is hinting at. This is a lot more than just building on the moon. This is a full supply chain from mining to manufacturing. The point being that if anyone thinks we are going to build this satellite factory and the mass driver system on the Earth and then ship it to the moon on a rocket, that is just not going to work out, even with SpaceX providing the muscle for this whole operation in the Starship, which is the one thing SpaceX has that no one else in the world could possibly build. It's the first super heavy lift rocket, orbiter, and lander combination that is also fully reusable, meaning that not only will Starship carry more stuff into space than any other rocket, but it can also return to the Earth, land, refuel, and launch again. Or it can refuel while still in Earth orbit, fly to the moon or Mars, and then land there as well. And that's not even the end of this rocket's usefulness. This is the idea, at least. In practice, we've seen various Starship prototypes complete some very impressive milestones over nearly 3 years of operation. We've seen 11 of them launch, a few of them land, and 2 that were able to deploy a small payload into space. But we've also seen a lot of Starships just blow up in midair. So even through a very optimistic lens, this is still very much a work in progress, and that is fine. Musk isn't trying to say that Starship will land on the moon this year, but he does think it'll land next year. And that is still a very ambitious goal, but let's cut the guy some slack and say it's not impossible. In addition to being incredibly powerful, the Starship does have another big advantage that other rockets just can't provide, which is to say that it can serve a dual purpose. The Starship itself is essentially a big stainless steel tube that gets filled with cargo and propellant. When it lands on the moon, all of the propellant will be used up and all of the cargo will be unloaded. That leaves us with an empty metal tube that is 9 meters wide and about 6.
Hey guys, Hunter Biden here. I just got a call from Andrew Callahan. He asked me to come out on the Channel 5 Carnival tour at the end of the month.
He does kind of sound a bit
I think
like
we
his
start
dad, doesn't he?
in Phoenix, and then we go to
Kinda
San
wild.
Diego, and we end in Albuquerque. And I think he's trying to organize a cage match, me versus Eric and Don Jr. I told him I'd do it, 100% in, if he can pull it off. And if he can't, I'm still coming. And I think he's got a lot of other surprises up his sleeve. A lot of fun. And I hope I can see you guys out there. You can get tickets online right now. And I'll see you out on tour.
Hell yeah. That reminds me of when Joe said he was gonna punch Donald in the face.
60 meters long, and this is starting to look like the framing for a pretty spacious human habitat. Just one hollowed-out Starship would offer about as much internal volume as the entire International Space Station.
What's up? All right, don't remember the keys on that. You're gonna do great.
Thank you.
These two are being shown?
Yeah.
I'll see you.
Which itself is essentially a series of connected metal tubes. Now, there is still some
Alright,
work that
let's
needs to be done,
see.
because if you were to just set up camp inside a used cargo starship, then there's only about 3 millimeters of stainless steel separating you from the exceptionally deadly environment of the moon, which is not good. So we do have to go the extra mile of burying the ship in lunar soil to create a thick layer of insulation. That is going to protect against radiation, regulate temperature, and act as a shield against any small meteorites that are likely to fall on us. Okay, so we've got a cool place to live, but we didn't go to the moon to just hang out inside all the time. So we need to get around. And of course, SpaceX is going to have an answer for this as well. Also borrowed from their friends at Tesla, the Cybertruck. Can't sell them on Earth, might as well start launching them into space. Of course, you wouldn't actually want to just send a normal Cybertruck to the moon. That's way overbuilt for a moon rover, and the design of the truck as it is would not work even for a second. Fluids would boil off, rubber tires would explode, it would be a mess. But the basic concept of the Cybertruck is sound, and it could just be the key to unlocking the potential of the moon. NASA used electric vehicles on the moon back in the 1970s, and they worked great with the technology of the era, so obviously Tesla can do a lot better in this day and age. The driving range of those old Apollo dune buggies was a little less than 100 kilometers on a non-rechargeable battery, which is actually pretty impressive for the time, so just imagine how far we could go today on a single charge. Tesla's autonomous driving AI would also play a huge role. Now we can have these vehicles moving around robots and loads of raw materials without any humans needing to get involved. That gives people more time to focus on the important things like science and exploration. Now at the heart of this self-growing city needs to be energy, a lot of it. There is a humongous difference between powering a small human outpost and operating a massive AI satellite factory and mass driver system. And that energy will come from the sun. One of the many big changes that Elon has made recently to both the Tesla and SpaceX business model is to prioritize the manufacturing of solar panels, but not just any solar panels. You see, right now, almost every solar panel in the world is made in China. And that's a problem for an American company like SpaceX, because while solar panels are actually fairly cheap to build, markups and incredibly high import tariffs make them fairly expensive to buy. So Musk has directed both of his largest companies to build their own solar panels in the USA, and he set the goal of producing 100 gigawatts per year of solar capacity. For scale, 100 gigawatts is about 1/5 of the current United States electricity generation. So in 5 years of manufacturing at that scale, Tesla and SpaceX would have enough solar panels to power America.
So yeah,
all
Muffin's
on their
here
own.
now.
But that's not what they're gonna do.
Here for
Elon's
good.
plan for the majority of that solar production is to launch it into
Mika,
space.
you are too big.
Every single one of those AI data center satellites is going to need a massive array of solar panels to run the supercomputers within. Plus, there's the factory that builds them and the mass driver that launches them. This will also need an incredibly large collection of solar panels. So is it even possible to make enough of them? Well, one thing that Musk points out is that a solar panel made for Earth and one made for space can be very different products. Most of what we consider to be a solar panel is the heavy glass and metal case that holds the photocells and protects them from the elements. There's no weather in space or on the moon, so you don't need all of that. The worst case scenario would be that a panel gets hit with a space rock. And in a world where solar cells are cheap and abundant, you would simply just change it out for a new one. No big deal. And if anything, this actually sheds some light onto what Tesla means when they say things like amazing abundance. It doesn't mean Cybertrucks everywhere. It means that when energy is cheap and labor and transportation are automated, then you can essentially build anything, and humans are only limited by our ability to invent. So yeah, we can build a city on the moon, and then we can go to Mars and do the same thing. Here's another video all about what that might look like.
I'm enjoying this channel a lot.
One day of travel. There will be a city on Mars in the year 2050. It will be humanity's second home, our first outpost away from the shelter of the Earth, and a construction project that will cement our future as a multi-planet species. SpaceX is determined to make this vision a reality, but it's going to require more than just ambition and big rockets to colonize Mars. The biggest thing that would set a Mars city apart from some other off-world colony like a moon base, for example, is this idea of being self-sustaining. You see, a person living on the moon could still return to the Earth as often as they like. There's only about 1 day of travel time between the two, and likewise, that would mean that any resources the people of the moon might require from Earth would be within easy reach at all times. Mars is a different story. Now we are looking at 8 months of travel time one way from Earth. This could be improved in the future with nuclear propulsion systems, but even if that works out as good as can be expected, the trip to Mars would still be around 45 days. That means the people of Mars cannot be dependent on the resources of Earth. They have to learn to harvest everything that the red planet has to offer, and what it has is really not much. But that will drive the creation of a massive industry on Mars to extract those resources and transform them into the necessities of human life. With the idea being that one day the ships from Earth will just stop. Whatever the reason for that might be, support from our homeworld will come to an end and humanity will continue on from our second planet. This is going to require around 1 million people or more to be living and thriving in a Martian city before anything goes wrong on Earth. So that means we need to build deep roots on Mars, both figuratively and literally. First, there were robots. The planet Mars will be inhabited by dozens, maybe hundreds of robots before any person ever sets foot there. And when we do get there, we'll be following in the footsteps of this thing, Optimus, the Tesla bot. It's probably not a coincidence that a sister company of SpaceX is making the exact technology that they're going to need to start building on Mars. Optimus is a fully autonomous AI-powered humanoid, and it's designed to take over any job that is currently done by people. But on the flip side of that, Optimus could also begin doing a job that will eventually be taken over by a person, like a Mars colonist, for example. The thing about Mars is that it's just too far away and too inhospitable to simply launch a crew of human beings out onto the frontier and let them fend for themselves. It may have worked for the Europeans colonizing the New World, but the journey to Mars will be by far the most dangerous migration that humankind has ever experienced. The surface of Mars is colder than Antarctica, it's drier than the Sahara Desert, but with even bigger dust storms, and the atmosphere is so thin that liquid can't even exist. There's just not enough pressure to hold it together, so what you get is instant evaporation. People are mostly liquid, so outside of a pressure suit on Mars, you would instantly start to freeze, boil, and suffocate all at the same time.
That's not the worst
And
thing.
even if you did stay safe inside your suit, you're still likely to get a heavy dose of radiation. The lack of atmosphere out there means that there's almost nothing separating the Martian surface from the colossal nuclear reactor in space that we call our sun. This is why SpaceX has already made their plan to launch the first ships to Mars with Optimus robots on board. Optimistically, this could happen as early as 2026. SpaceX has a roadmap that shows 5 Starship landers heading to Mars, each one loaded with 10 tons of payload. Now, the only real goal of that first transit will be to land at least one ship without crashing. That's why they want to send more than one at a time, because there will probably be a learning curve. One of the things we know about SpaceX is that they learn through trial and error, and oftentimes that means stuff blows up at first, but once they get it right, they're able to lock in and just keep executing very consistently. So, assuming that one ship lands safely and releases a handful of Optimus robots into the Martian landscape, they're still not going to have a whole lot to do until the next wave arrives. 2 years after the first successful landing is when the first real colonial fleet arrives. 20 Starship landers, each carrying 75 tons of cargo, most of which is going to be infrastructure for the first people to arrive. Now, let's talk about where this Mars colony is going to be located. SpaceX has already identified the Arcadia region as a prime candidate for settlement. This is just northeast of the volcano Olympus Mons, the tallest mountain in the entire solar system. Arcadia is a flat plain that's close to the equator, yet still believed to contain large deposits of water ice, which is going to be the single most important resource on Mars for a couple of reasons. When we talk about the infrastructure that the Optimus robots are going to be building for their future human comrades, there are two critical machines that they need to get up and running. One is a water treatment plant. People need to drink, but water is really heavy. Just bringing enough of it to keep everyone alive on the 8-month journey from Earth to Mars is going to be a challenge, and that already involves using a lot of recycled water. But there are only so many times that you can turn last night's pee into this morning's coffee. Now, the cool thing about water is that it can serve many purposes beyond just hydration. For example, you can break water apart into two base elements, oxygen and hydrogen. So as part of the same process that converts ice into drinkable water, our robot scouts can also produce oxygen for future colonists to breathe. Then there's hydrogen. Not particularly useful for human consumption, but very important for making rocket fuel. Now here's something to consider in the long run. Signing up to be a Mars colonist is probably going to involve a one-way ticket to the Red Planet, but in the short term, before we have a big awesome city for everyone to live in, people are going to want a return trip. And just like with water, rocket fuel is very heavy. Just bringing enough of it to last the journey and land on Mars will be difficult, which means there won't be fuel left over to launch a second time and come all the way back to Earth. So a second big infrastructure project for the Optimus bots is going to be constructing a rocket fuel production plant. Now, there are some rockets that burn pure hydrogen as their fuel source, but it's not a popular choice because hydrogen is a very difficult element to work with. It's very prone to weird chemical reactions and is extremely hard to contain because it's the lightest element in the universe. That is why SpaceX chooses methane as their fuel for Starship.
They use farts.
It's hydrogen with a little bit of carbon mixed in. One carbon atom for every 4 hydrogen atoms, and that carbon just helps to stabilize the mixture and weigh it down enough to make this whole process a lot easier. Now we know hydrogen comes from water, but carbon will come out of thin air, literally. What little atmosphere Mars does have is mostly carbon dioxide, so a carbon capture device would be able to extract the necessary atoms from the air. You get carbon to make methane and some bonus oxygen for people to breathe. Now, in order to support the new robotic manufacturing industry on Mars, there's going to need to be a mining operation as well. The water ice that we are going to need is located under the ground. That means we need to dig it up. And again, probably not by coincidence, SpaceX is going to have access to some boring technology from another sister company. Now, a full-scale tunneling machine is not going to be practical for early construction on Mars, but taking that same design and scaling it down into a Martian mining rig is going to start unlocking those resources that make it possible for humans to survive and eventually create a sustainable colony. As a bonus, all of the soil and rock that they dig up while mining can be processed into a kind of asphalt and used to lay down hard surfaces for roads and landing pads. And that is where we end up about 2 years after our first large-scale robot landing. This could be as early as the year 2030. There's nothing wrong with a little optimism from time to time. And now it's time for the first people to arrive on Mars as part of this massive Starship fleet with 100 landers, each carrying 150 tons of cargo. There are going to be 2 new construction projects that need to begin once the first human settlers arrive.
They're going to have a Taco Bell on Mars.
One is a power plant. Up until now, the robots have only needed enough electricity to recharge their batteries, something that could easily be handled by a few solar panels. But now that people are here, their energy needs are going to be much higher. So once the power plant is ready, all of the infrastructure that the robots have been building gets turned on. Life support systems that provide oxygen, water, heat, and air pressure need to run 24/7. The length of one day on Mars is almost exactly the same as a day on Earth, which means that every 12 hours or so, it's going to get dark. And that means solar panels need to be hooked up to batteries. Big ones. By now, we can probably say it's not a coincidence that Tesla has been manufacturing large battery storage systems that they call the Megapack. You can fit a couple of these inside of a Starship lander, and just one Megapack can power a small town for a couple of hours. So keeping a small Mars colony alive overnight is actually more than doable. But people also need homes on Mars. The advantage of the Starship lander with its gigantic size is that it can continue to provide adequate shelter for people long after they touch down on Mars, so there's no rush to move out. But Starship is also not an ideal long-term home. It's very tall and narrow, and you have to take an elevator every time to get in or out. So now, people and Optimus bots work together to build the first permanent habitat on Mars.
They did
These
that in
habitats
Artemis
can take
1.
many
They did
forms.
test
The
the
first
heat
one that
shield.
comes to mind for most people
I think they're
is
just
going to
saying,
be
like, the first
a
real
big
test
glass
in
dome.
that,
And that's maybe
you know,
something we can
it'll
figure
be
out a lot
protecting
further down the
people
line of
rather
city
than
construction,
unmanned.
but for the first Martian homestead, that's just way too hard. For example, we don't build a lot of giant glass domes on Earth, but the closest thing ever made to a sci-fi Mars city would be the Singapore Airport Nature Dome. This covers 135,000 square meters of internal space, and the structure itself weighs 3,500 tons, which would be at least 350 Starship loads of material just to build one dome,
350
plus all of the
loads.
construction machinery you would need on Mars to actually assemble something of this size. Now, we can build domes, we just have to think more about working with the natural environment of Mars. For example, we can make an ice dome. It's an idea that's currently being studied by NASA's Langley Research Center, and it takes advantage of the natural insulating power
Artemis
of
1
water.
did perfectly.
This is the same reason why Inuit people in the north make igloos. Frozen water will keep heat
It was a
in, but
complete success.
just as important on Mars, it's going to keep radiation out.
I don't think they would have done
You
Artemis
see, water
2
is actually one of the best shields
this way.
against
if
deadly
Artemis
radiation
1
from the
had
sun.
a big problem.
The ice
But
dome
yeah,
begins
Artemis
with an
1 was
inflatable
absolutely a
donut-shaped
success.
module at its base. Then a solid mold for the dome shape goes up around that, and finally, autonomous robots would fill the dome with water ice sourced from the Martian surface. The ice would be translucent enough
can't
to allow
believe I
natural
fucking
light to
did
shine
this
through, which is
again.
going to benefit the natural sleep cycle and mental health of people living inside. This makes the ice dome ideal for a house, but it might lack the versatility required for bigger and more diverse infrastructure like research labs and factories. So keeping the inflatable module at the core,
Not
which
as
is
far as
something
I
that we
know.
can make on Earth in pretty much any
Well, let me
shape and
check.
size we might need, and then fairly easily ship to Mars in a single rocket, then we just need a more versatile material to
unexpected
cover it over
damage
and provide that
during
extra
reentry.
strength in a
Sections
solid
of its
shell.
outer char layer were
Again,
blown
we need
off
to take advantage
when
of local
internal heating
resources.
generated gas
So
that
if
had no
ice
way to
mining
vent.
operations are going to
Go.
keep progressing as humans arrive, then we're going to end up with plenty of
Yeah.
rock that gets
But
dug up along the way
the
to
capsule was
finding
still
that
fully
ice,
intact,
which we can
so.
then turn around and use as construction material. We already looked at using this mining waste to make asphalt, but for building a sturdy shell around an inflatable house, we'll need something that's more like concrete. In order to do this on Mars, you need a binder. That's going to help the rocks stick together and form into a solid material. And this binding agent is also going to be easy to find in our Mars colony because it's going to come from human waste. This is a concept often referred to as astrocrete or biocrete, and it actually turns the bodily fluids of astronauts into a building material. The idea for biocrete comes from a study at the University of Manchester, and they've tested this process using human blood, sweat, and urine. Now, for an ideal Mars colony, we would hope to avoid shedding too much blood and sweat, but assuming we can all stay hydrated, there should be an abundance of urine to go around. We know that it's possible to extract drinkable water from our pee, but there's also a lot of waste
Hell yeah,
product that gets
that pee
filtered
water.
out. That's called urea, and that's the good stuff. It can actually be mixed with the soil on Mars to make a concrete even stronger than what we build with today on Earth. I know that sounds crazy, but medieval stonemasons actually used to mix animal blood into their mortar when they were building castles to make it strong, so this isn't entirely new. And then there's food, which is arguably going to be one of, if not the hardest aspect of a self-sustaining city on Mars. Just like water and fuel, there's only so much food we can possibly bring down along with us from Earth.
For the next
So at
few
some
hours,
point,
crew.
we will need an abundant supply of Mars-grown nutrition. Farming is difficult under any circumstance.
sure the
Even on
astronauts
Earth, it's one
thank
of
you
the
for that.
toughest jobs around, but Mars poses a unique challenge to growing food. The soil is literally toxic. Martian soil is laced with something we call perchlorates, which contain chlorine, which is the stuff we put in swimming pools to stop bacteria from growing. So the same goes for anything you might want to plant in Mars soil. The perchlorates are going to stop it from growing. And that leaves us with two solutions that are about equally as challenging. Either we need to transport all of our soil for agriculture from the Earth to Mars, which even a starship full of dirt is not that much when we're trying to grow food for 1 million people. Or we need yet another Mars-based industry for processing soil, removing perchlorates, and making sure that there's adequate nutrients available to make it viable for growing plants. Now, luckily, there's another outlet for repurposing human waste. If urine can be used to make cement, then the number 2 can be used to fertilize the fields and feed 1 million people. No one said this was going to be pretty, but if we can lock down those basic necessities of life, power, water, oxygen, shelter, food, and if we can produce those things in a way that is self-sustaining, that doesn't rely on the Earth to ensure the future survival of humans on Mars, then this is the first step towards becoming a true multi-planet species. Now, where do we go next? This is the SpaceX Starship. It's big, it's powerful, and it's the first rocket ever built that has a genuine shot at sending people from Earth to the planet Mars. But even for all its impressive size and capability, the Starship is far from a luxury cruise liner to the stars. The journey will be long, dangerous, uncomfortable, and kinda gross. The experience will push our interplanetary travelers to the limit. So if the Starship is going to carry people to Mars, then what is that actually going to look like? The initial promise of the Starship was that the entire upper half of this 50-meter tall rocket would be wide open for both crew and cargo. About 1,000 cubic meters of sweeping, open concept deck and humongous windows, all very luxurious. Then SpaceX started test flying Starship prototypes and trying to land them, which did not start off very well. There was a long period of trial and error and crashing and exploding. One of the biggest changes made to Starship during this era was the relocation of the secondary fuel tanks for the landing burn. They moved up from the bottom of the rocket and into the nose cone. If you look at that flip maneuver that the ship performs as it comes in for a landing, the bottom of the rocket swings around like a pendulum.
Oh my God.
You don't want your fuel down there, you want it up in the top where the ship remains relatively stable.
You fucked yourself though, you said that dad jokes really
great,
took the
but it
piss
does
instead of
mean that the
dad
entire
joke.
pointy bit is now off limits for the crew, so
it kind of fell on
no
your
more
face.
big window. Then SpaceX started flying the Starship all the way to space and coming back down again, which led to another big change in design. They had to make the rocket bigger. In 2025, SpaceX began flying the Starship V2. This is a little tricky because while it's bigger on the outside by about 2 meters, the new Starship is actually smaller on the inside, with about the same amount of height removed from the payload bay. What they did was actually extend the fuel tanks upward into the cargo area. This gives the Starship more propellant to work with, which is going to allow the ship to actually carry itself and a payload of 100 metric tons all the way to Earth orbit. So if we were traveling to Mars inside the Starship as we know it today, we'd have about 500 cubic meters of livable space. Now, that's half of the original concept, but it's not small either. The International Space Station offers about 900 cubic meters of internal volume spread out over a claustrophobic maze of narrow passageways, and the station is permanently inhabited by a crew of 7 people. It's even held up to 13 at one time. So, how many people could we reasonably fit into a Starship V2 for the round trip to Mars and back again? Well, lucky for us, NASA went ahead and commissioned a study on this very topic back in the year 2013. They found that for a crewed mission to Mars, with an estimated duration of 2.5 years, each person would need a minimum of 25 cubic meters. That is not personal space, that's just 25 cubic meters of general space per person, about the same volume as a shipping container. So according to that research, our Starship V2 could support up to 20 people maximum without significant risk of anyone going insane. But we also need to consider that crew space is not the same as cargo space. A starship built for people is going to require floors, walls, and a center column with a ladder to move up and down. Then the entire lower level of our starship habitat is going to be dedicated to an airlock and cargo bay because at some point, hopefully, we will land on Mars and head down to the surface. So with all of that considered, our 500 cubic meters is quickly shrinking into a claustrophobic nightmare. Now, you might be able to make it work with a crew of 6, but that's not how we're going to colonize Mars. And this is where Starship V3 comes in, the long starship, taking it up to 69 meters tall. Starship V3 adds about 17 meters in length over V2, but that's also going to add a lot of weight. So the bigger rocket will need bigger fuel tanks, meaning we don't actually get all of that extra length back for habitable space. But what we do end up with is probably something a lot closer to that original Starship concept with about 1,000 cubic meters of internal volume. So SpaceX still got us there, it just required a bit of compromise along the way. See, we can be realistic and optimistic at the same time. It is possible. Now that we finally know where we're living on our Mars trip, let's start building out our interior. Starting from the bottom, we know that there needs to be a cargo bay and airlock down there, and we can actually get a pretty good idea of what this is going to look like by referencing the design that SpaceX has already developed for the Artemis moon landing, which will use a modified Starship, probably based on the V2. The lower level is going to have a circular airlock that astronauts will enter from above. Inside that circle is where the EVA suits are kept. Once suited up, we can move into the unpressurized cargo hold. This is where exploration equipment is going to be stored. Mobility devices, scientific instruments, cameras, tools for collecting samples, all of that fun stuff. There's also the elevator. It's going to be a very long way down to the surface, so we've also had a quick glimpse at what SpaceX has in mind for the crew lift. It's kind of halfway between an old service elevator and a shark cage. Nothing fancy, which is good, because we don't want this thing to break.
Some rudimentary medical
Okay, so that's level 1. Let's move up into level 2. This would make the most sense as our first pressurized storage space, remembering that this ship needs to land on Mars, so we want to keep the center of gravity as low as possible, meaning heavy stuff on the bottom. So that's why our water system, our oxygen, and HVAC, our food, and our waste storage all goes on level 2. Moving up again to deck 3, it would make the most sense to keep the hygiene, washing, and toilet as close to the storage deck as possible. That keeps our plumbing to a minimum. This is not going to be luxurious. Do not expect a hot shower on our trip to Mars. At best, you'll wash yourself with a rag on a stick and shampoo your hair with a dry powder. But things get really brutal when we talk about wastewater management. Here's the deal. Without recycling water, we would need to bring 27 metric tons of water for 10 people on a 900-day journey. That's somewhere between 1/4 and 1/8 of the Starship's total lifting capacity just to carry water. But if we recycle, we can get away with bringing just about 3 metric tons of water. For comparison, the standard on the ISS is that 93% of the water that's used is recycled. That means urine is filtered and recombined into the water supply. It also means that the number 2 is going to be dehydrated and split into solid waste, which gets stored down below, and the moisture released is also going to be recombined back into the water supply. Astronauts drink their own pee. This is what we signed up for. According to people who have seen the inside of the Starship Lunar Lander mock-up, SpaceX is developing these rectangular hygiene pods that would serve as a combination toilet and shower station, and they'd be positioned at an angle around the circular edge of the ship's interior to make the best use possible of the available space. That should leave enough space open to put our gym on the same level. Might as well keep all of the unpleasant odors contained on one floor. everyone needs 2 hours of exercise per day, and that has to be split between cardio and strength training. So stationary bikes and treadmills with tie-downs for zero gravity are standard issue, as well as a special machine for full body resistance training. Moving up one level to deck 4, and we'd be in the crew cabin space. Now, this kind of depends on how many people we are bringing with us. If we started off with 1,000 cubic meters of empty space, then installed the walls and floors, then filled up 2 whole decks with airlock and storage space, we're probably left with something in the neighborhood of 600 cubic meters of crew space. Now, it's not that easy to imagine just how much space we're actually talking about here. Most of us don't visualize things in cubic meters, so just know that the crew compartment of the Starship is going to be equivalent to a relatively large home with 3 or 4 bedrooms and around 2,300 square feet of floor space. Definitely not small and perfectly comfortable for the average family, right? But according to our NASA equation, for the maximum number of people we could fit in that space without anyone going insane, NASA would actually allow up to 24 people to live in one house. And that lines up with what we've learned about the Starship moon lander. Again, according to people in the know, SpaceX is also developing a rectangular bunk station in the same kind of box as the toilet pod. And according to renderings, SpaceX can fit 20 beds on one Starship deck. So that's probably our best indication for how many people are realistically coming along on our Mars trip. We are a crew of 20. It's probably worth mentioning that Elon Musk has confidently said in the past that Starship can carry 100 people to Mars in one trip, and while technically that is true, here's what that would look like. Keeping in mind you'd be stuck there for 8 months at a time. I'm pretty sure this falls under the category of cruel and unusual punishment. Moving up again, and we're already at deck number 5, and we can start getting into some comfort features. The mess hall or kitchen space, not that there'd be much cooking going on, preparing a meal in space basically consists of pumping hot water into a vacuum-sealed bag of dehydrated food. It's not all bad though, astronauts on the ISS still get pizza. It's more than likely that SpaceX would incorporate some kind of hydroponic greenhouse into the mess hall. NASA is already beginning some experiments with growing plants in zero gravity, and it should be possible. I wouldn't expect vine-ripe tomatoes, but we might have a bowl of fresh lettuce every now and then. Level 6 is where we can start opening things up a little more. We've got 9 meters of width in this rocket, minus a little bit for the walls and insulation, so let's build in a little relief from the claustrophobia and confined spaces of the lower deck. We need a lounge area. A gallery, big windows, big TV screens, maybe even a painting or two on the wall. Of course, we're never going to get 20 people to agree on what to watch, so personal entertainment systems like VR headsets are going to become the preferred device for Martian travelers. The trick here is that during the transit in space, everyone can just float around. But once we land on Mars, gravity returns to the equation, so we do need enough furniture for 20 people, couches and chairs and all that stuff. Moving up again, and Deck 7 would be great for an office or workspace. We are going to be away from the Earth for nearly 3 years, so we'll need something to keep us busy. They say an idle brain is the devil's workshop, and I don't know what we're supposed to do with people who go crazy, but I'd assume we might have to jettison you into space, so best to stay occupied. And then at the very top of our habitable zone, level 8, let's call that the flight deck, the bridge if you want to use a Star Trek analogy. This is where the business of flying a spaceship happens. It's also where we strap in for launch and landing. Remember we talked about how SpaceX moved the landing fuel up into the nose cone so that it wouldn't slosh around? Well, we also don't want to be sloshed around during that pendulum swing that the ship is going to make as it transitions from a belly flop to a vertical landing. So we want to be as high up as possible when that happens. And assuming we've survived the landing, we are now residents of Mars, and the Starship will probably continue to be our home base for the duration of our stay, until we build Elon's Mars City, which I think we are contractually obligated to help with while we're here, but that's a whole other video.
Let's see. That's would be interesting.
Beneath the hazy orange clouds of Saturn's moon Titan lies one of the solar system's greatest mysteries. Out there is a world much like our own, something strangely familiar, but at the same time it is alien and unfathomable. For decades, the surface of Titan was hidden from our view, until NASA found a way to cut through the haze and reveal the moon's true nature. This is what they found. Our first close encounter with Titan came in the year 1979, when NASA sent a robotic spacecraft named Pioneer 11 to visit the planet Saturn for the first time and investigate the rings and moons that surround the gas giant. We've known about the existence of Titan for centuries. It was officially discovered in 1655 by the Dutch astronomer Christian Huygens. It's not hard to spot either, as you can probably tell by the name. Titan is big. It's actually a bit larger than the planet Mercury, and it's 50% wider than our own moon, but it's still incredibly far away. So when Pioneer 11 first encountered Titan, scientists were eager to find out what it actually looked like. But all that the probe was really able to see were the dense orange clouds that surrounded the moon. It was impenetrable. What Pioneer was able to do was investigate what that haze was made of, and it found something very intriguing: a thick atmosphere that was rich in nitrogen. This is very similar to what we have on Earth. The majority of our own atmosphere is also nitrogen. Now, there was another familiar discovery made on Titan, and this is what really piqued the curiosity of scientists: hydrocarbons. What are those? Well, the technical answer is that they are carbon atoms bonded to hydrogen atoms. Most of us use hydrocarbons almost every day in the form of a combustible fuel like gasoline or propane. On Titan, the atmosphere is filled with methane, which we generally know as natural gas. Now, why is this important to NASA scientists? Well, a more practical explanation would be that in addition to being useful as fuel, these carbon-based structures are also known as the building blocks of life. Important molecules like DNA and protein are all built on hydrocarbon foundations. Here's a more familiar word for you: carbohydrates. Sounds pretty much the same, and it is, but carbohydrates bring oxygen to the party. So if we can find oxygen on Titan, then we've got more than just the building blocks of life. We've also got the food to fuel that life. And just so you know right now, there is oxygen on Titan, but we're going to need to go a lot deeper to find it, so stick with me. Flying a probe close by Titan was also able to give us a sense of the moon's gravity. And this is a bit strange because Titan has a lot less of it than you'd expect. For being so much bigger than our own moon, the force of gravity on Titan is actually a little bit weaker, meaning Titan isn't very dense, meaning it can't be made entirely of rock. And that opens up some interesting possibilities. The combination of a thick atmosphere and weak gravity means that a person in a wingsuit could essentially jump off a cliff and fly like a bird for as long as they want. It also makes a flying machine a perfect vehicle for exploring the surface. Writing clearly is hard, whether you're explaining rocket engines, sending an important email, or just trying to make your ideas come across the way you want. You write a line, read it back, and something just feels off. That is where Quillbot's Chrome extension comes in. With one click, it can rephrase your sentence to sound smoother while keeping the same meaning. I find it particularly useful when sending emails. So, say you're drafting an email to your boss or a client and you want to sound more professional. Highlight the sentence, hit Quillbot, and instantly see polished alternatives. Or maybe you're writing a school paper, a LinkedIn post, or even a cover letter. Either way, Quillbot helps you get your point across with clarity and confidence. The extension works right inside your browser, so you don't have to jump between apps or websites. Anywhere you're typing, Gmail, Google Docs, social media, Quillbot is right there to help. And if you want to try it out, check the link in the description to install the Quillbot Chrome extension for free. Once you start using it, you'll see how much easier it makes your writing, whether you're working on something technical, professional, or just day-to-day communication. So this is what NASA found back in the 70s. A lot of very Earth-like ingredients hiding deep in the outer solar system. They knew that beneath the clouds of Titan could be a discovery that would change everything we know about life and the universe. It was so close, yet so far away. They would have to wait for technology to catch up. And 25 years later, in 2004, the Cassini spacecraft would finally arrive at Saturn to pick up where Pioneer 11 had left off. This was a joint project between NASA, the European Space Agency, and the Italian Space Agency. Cassini is equipped with the necessary radar and infrared scanners to see through the dense atmosphere of both Saturn and Titan. Over the course of its 13-year mission, the spacecraft would fly past Titan 127 times, using its instruments to cut through the haze and investigate down to the surface. What it found was mind-blowing. Titan is the only moon in the solar system with an atmosphere, and this is a thick atmosphere, 4 times the density of Earth's. So what that does is it actually creates a reverse greenhouse effect, blocking out what little heat from the sun can actually reach this far. So as we move deeper towards the surface, all of the methane gas in the air gets colder and colder until it liquefies and falls like raindrops onto a surface of ice that is frozen as hard as granite rock. The average surface temperature on Titan is negative 179 degrees Celsius, and the freezing point of methane is negative 182. So it is the perfect environment to support a full hydrological cycle of evaporation and condensation, except with rocket fuel instead of water. The result is flowing rivers, lakes, and seas across the surface of Titan, making it the only known world aside from the Earth that has a stable liquid on its surface. Now, the people who built Cassini were very smart. They knew that Titan was going to reveal something incredible, so the European Space Agency included a secondary probe, the Huygens lander, named after the Dutch astronomer who first discovered the moon. And it was designed to parachute down to the surface and take photographs of Titan along the way. In January 2005, Huygens began its descent. Based on images taken by Cassini, the target landing site was believed to be the shoreline of a small lake. The probe had been designed to survive landing on a variety of terrain, from mountain ranges to flat plains and even a liquid ocean. It had enough battery life to operate for 3 hours, with 2.5 of those hours being spent slowly parachuting down to the surface. And when Huygens finally broke through the clouds on Titan, this is what it saw. We begin to make out a dark valley set between brighter mountain ranges, and as we get closer to the ground, in the middle of the frame you can clearly see a network of drainage channels and streams that have been cut into the sides of the mountains. Some of these would be hundreds of meters wide and several kilometers in length. These would have been created by runoff from methane rains working their way into the valley. Huygens is coming down right into the middle of that dark area, and as it approaches the surface, we can start to see that there is no liquid here. It's actually landing in a dried up riverbed. When Huygens makes contact with the surface, it makes a dent 12 centimeters deep. It bounces and then slides about 30 to 40 centimeters across the ground before wobbling a few times and coming to a rest. As the camera begins to look around on the surface, the most striking revelation is not how alien the world looks, but actually how familiar this all seems. If you take away the orange color, it looks like the bottom of any river on Earth. We see large rounded stones that have been smoothed over by flowing liquid, and they're surrounded by smaller pebbles on what looks like a sandy surface. Only these aren't rocks, they are chunks of water ice that are frozen as hard as rock. Same with the mountains. They are made of ice as well. Remember, water means oxygen, H2O, but it's still no good for life if it's frozen solid. And the muddy-looking surface around the lander is thought to be a strange hydrocarbon material that scientists found to be very much like snow, with a thin, crispy crust on the top and a soft texture beneath. As the camera looks out into the alien landscape, you can start to see waves in the air. That is heat from the probe's lamp causing evaporation on the surface. At one point, we even see a small drop of methane dew drip down past the lens. As the camera pans up, we see the sun in the sky, and it's just 1/10 the size of how it appears from the Earth. And even though it's midday on Titan, the light is only as bright as what we see just after sunset at the twilight hour on Earth. So what Huygens found was pretty amazing, but it did fail to uncover the most intriguing mystery of Titan, the liquid methane. It seemed to land in the right place, the bottom of a river, but it just arrived at the wrong time. So where did the liquid go? One of the interesting findings from Huygens had to do with the moon's methane cycle. We know about the water cycle on Earth, right? Water evaporates from the surface and rises up into the sky where it condenses into clouds until there's so much water vapor trapped up there that it starts to fall back down as rain. In most places on Earth, rain happens pretty frequently because there's a lot of energy from the sun driving evaporation, but on the surface of Titan, where there's only a very small amount of sunlight, the liquid methane evaporates very slowly. And when it does evaporate, all of the methane vapor gets stored up in this incredibly dense cloud cover that can hold on to massive amounts of rain before anything actually starts to fall. The result of which would be long periods of drought that could last for hundreds of years at a time, followed by periods of torrential rainfall that would cause flash flooding all over the moon.
Yeah.
So unfortunately,
I'm in career
we did
mode.
not visit Titan in its
I'm
rainy
about
season,
to
but
land
that does
the first of a couple shelters onto the surface of the Mun in preparation for long-term stays by Kerbals. Probes always Titan Uranus, true.
Doesn't mean that it was totally dry either. As Cassini continued on its 13-year mission, the spacecraft continued observing Titan and learning about its surface. What it found was that during the dry season, liquid methane is limited to the North Pole regions. And what the probe learned to spot were these bright reflections of sunlight shining off the tops of watery lakes.
Why doesn't this
This
count
is the first body of liquid
solar
methane
panels?
identified on Titan. It's called Ontario Lacus, named after Lake Ontario in North America, because the two have a nearly identical shape, only the one on Titan is about 20% smaller, but it still covers about 15,000 square kilometers. Even though the lake is pretty big, it's actually still relatively shallow with the average depth between 40 centimeters and 3 meters. It's also an eerily still lake, with waves only reaching 3 millimeters in height. So to the naked eye, the surface would appear as flat and still as glass. Now, we're not sure why that is. Given the higher air pressure and lower gravity, waves should actually be bigger on Titan than they are on Earth, and Lake Ontario has some pretty big waves. Titan even has a small ocean at its north pole. This body is known as Kraken Mare. It's 400,000 square kilometers in area, just a bit smaller than the Black Sea on Earth, large enough that it actually experiences a tide from the gravitational pull of the nearby planet Saturn, with the liquid methane rising and falling up to 1 meter. Although Kraken Mare is still relatively shallow for its size, around 300 meters deep on average, while the Black Sea reaches down over 2,000 meters. But lakes and oceans of methane are not the only active process still happening on Titan. There are volcanoes as well. Only we know that the surface of Titan doesn't have rock. It has ice that looks like rock, so the volcanoes don't erupt with magma, they erupt with slushy water. Now, if Titan is so cold, then how is there any water that isn't already frozen solid? Well, the slush magma is mixed with ammonia, which acts as a natural antifreeze. You probably know ammonia as a foul-smelling cleaning product, but it was also very abundant during the formation of the solar system. It's just a combination of nitrogen and hydrogen, two of the most abundant atoms in the universe. And it ended up getting mixed into the composition of planets and moons, and then played a huge role in shaping those environments. So any ammonia on the surface of Titan would have evaporated and helped to create the nitrogen-rich atmosphere, and any ammonia below the surface would have combined with water ice and allowed it to melt into various liquid forms. So if we look at a cross-section of Titan, we have a solid crust of frozen ice. Then below that is a layer of partially frozen slush that occasionally erupts out through volcanoes, and below that slush is where we believe that a thick layer of liquid water still exists on top of the moon's rocky core. There's just enough residual heat and ammonia to maintain a subsurface ocean. So we have our water and we have our hydrocarbons, and we know that by combining the two we get carbohydrates, which is the fuel for life. And we also know that through this active volcanic process, there is an opportunity for the two elements to meet each other, either above or below the frozen surface. So we're not saying that there are aliens up there, but there is the opportunity for some primitive bacteria to form that would meet the bare minimum criteria to be considered alive. And that is why NASA is currently investing hundreds of millions of dollars in their return to Titan with a mission called Dragonfly. This is a nuclear-powered helicopter drone that is designed to fly around the landscape of Titan and collect samples that will be analyzed by a mobile laboratory inside the vehicle. The plan is for Dragonfly to launch in 2028 and arrive at Titan by the year 2034. This will be a complex mission, but it's the only way for NASA to solve the mysteries of Titan. We'll find out what that sandy, snow-like surface is actually made of, and if there are signs of life out there, then Dragonfly will be our best shot at finding them. This is a rock on the planet Mars, and if you look right in the middle, here at these dark spots, then you will see what remains of ancient Martian life. Or at least that's probably what you're looking at. This is what NASA revealed in September 2025.
Very well could be the clearest sign of life that we've ever found on Mars, which is
the clearest evidence ever discovered of alien life. And it's inside a sample of rock collected by the Perseverance Mars rover. Now, what is it about these spots that tells us life must exist on another planet? Well, that is complicated, but today we're going to figure it out. First, let's talk about where on Mars the alien rock was found. This is the Jezero crater, the landing site for NASA's Perseverance rover, the most advanced robotic explorer we've ever sent to the Red Planet. NASA chose this landing site for a very specific reason. It's believed that there was a time billions of years ago when this round basin was filled with liquid water. And the reason why we think Jezero was actually an ancient lake is because of this gap in the rim, where we see pretty clear evidence that a river of water has flowed down from the nearby highlands and emptied into the crater. That is the spot where Perseverance landed in 2021, at the mouth of the river, and that's also where NASA believed that they would have the best possible chance at finding evidence just like what we are looking at today. So, if life existed on Mars, then it would have been located in a place just like this. But that does not mean it would be easy to find. It took 3 years of exploration before Perseverance finally came upon this one very strange-looking rock poking up out of the sand. What makes this rock so special is that dark, repeating pattern that runs across the surface. NASA calls the little specks poppy seeds, and the larger shapes are leopard spots. Now, let's establish a sense of scale here before we go any further, because the photo that we've been looking at is actually an extreme close-up. So even the bigger leopard spots are just 1 or 2 millimeters across, meaning that the alien life responsible for this would have been very small. We're talking about microbes and bacteria, which on their own are too small to be found by Perseverance. So what we're looking for is evidence that these microbes once existed, the things they would have left behind.
All right, let's see
and that
what
is what
happens.
those dark spots represent, a waste product created by active microbial life. In very simple terms, this is fossilized Martian poop. Or at least that's the most likely explanation we have right now. The first thing that NASA did after spotting the mysterious pattern was to send in the rover's robotic arm and use its full collection of scientific instruments to start figuring out what was going on down there. The initial observations showed that this is sedimentary rock, meaning that it was formed slowly over millions of years as the river flowed through and deposited layers of minerals into the muddy ground. Then, as those layers got compacted down under their own weight and the river dries up eventually, the mud hardened into stone. On Earth, sedimentary rocks often contain fossils because plants and animal remains will get caught up in the layers and preserved by the hardening process. What's interesting about this particular location is that it contains some of the youngest sedimentary rock that NASA has ever found on Mars. It's about 3 billion years old. That means the window for a habitable Mars is wider than we would have thought, and if true, it tells us that there was life on Earth and Mars at the same time, both developing in a very similar way. But the only way to know for sure is to go deeper with our investigation. You can see this in a self-portrait taken by Perseverance in July 2024. The team operating the rover already knew that this would be a moment worth commemorating. There's the rock right in the middle of the frame, and the little white circle is where the rover's drill cut and extracted a sample that might someday be brought here to Earth for further study. But we'll come back to that later. Over on Mars, Perseverance was able to provide us with some initial findings that shocked NASA scientists. The rover identified two iron-based minerals inside the leopard spots, vivianite and greigite. Now, we often find these minerals inside similar patterns here on Earth, and when we do, it's typically associated with microbial life, also known as bacteria. Specifically, vivianite and greigite are found in the presence of decaying plants and animals. Microbes will come in and eat all of that dead organic matter. Then, they create these iron-rich minerals as a byproduct. It's microbe poop. It's important to know that you don't need a dead animal on Mars to feed those microbes. You only need the building blocks of that animal. That is what the bacteria eat, and this is what we call organic matter. Now, here's something to think about. 96% of your body mass is made from just 4 key elements in various combinations. Those ingredients are oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen. We know that Mars contains this organic matter, mostly in crater regions where it was brought to the surface by asteroid impacts, but there were a lot of organics found inside the same rock that was covered by the leopard spots. But that alone does not mean that there is life, so we've been in search of more evidence, and that's what the vivianite and the greigite provide for us. Now we have the ingredients for life, and we have the byproduct of life, so therefore, in order to connect the dots, we must have life on Mars, right? Well, that's not exactly what NASA is saying.
I should have checked
They are
this.
being very careful to maintain a cautiously optimistic but not decisive tone in their announcement of this new discovery. And there is good reason for that. Here's a video from 1996 that shows American President Bill Clinton announcing the discovery of what appeared to be a fossilized life form inside an asteroid that broke off from the surface of Mars and landed on Earth in Antarctica.
How do I do it?
What they found definitely did look like a little worm, but on closer analysis, this turned out to be a non-biological process. It was just water interacting with the rock and creating a worm-like structure. So having the president tell the world that you found fossilized aliens, but then it turns out to be just a weird-looking rock, that's not a good look. NASA also did something similar 20 years earlier during the Viking missions of 1976. That was the first time the American space program had ever landed on Mars, and scientists were eager to find the first signs of Martian life.
Let's,
They had the Viking probe conduct a simple experiment where it scooped up a small amount of Martian
Clearly
soil
that's not
and then
working.
squirted it with a mixture of water and nutrients. The idea was that if there were microbes alive in the soil, then they would drink the water, eat the food, and create a byproduct. Very similar to what we've been talking about so far. And in this case, NASA was specifically looking for the release of CO2 gas from the sample.
All right.
And that is...
I'm going to take a break for about an hour, and then I'll be back for the Artemis Reentry. So yeah, we'll do that. That'll be fun. Fuck you. See you guys in a little bit. Bye.